Chapter 2690. The host of the martial competition of the 16 counties was sent by the third prince of King Qin's mansion. He was a great overarching golden celestial. Both of you should be careful. I'm going to exert pressure on you now. The moment the host's voice fell, waves of powerful aura suddenly extended from his body and swept towards Yang Jin and Chu Yan, who were in the midst of a fierce battle, directly engulfing their figures. Immediately, Yang Jin and Chu Yan both felt tremendous pressure. However, they continued to fight while resisting the pressure from the host's aura. They were evenly matched, and it was difficult to determine the winner. Umph! The host snorted when he saw this. His celestial origin energy surged out of his body and transformed into an invisible force that shrouded Yang Jin and Chu Yan. Yang Jin and Chu Yan felt even more pressure. At this moment, everyone's gazes landed on Yang Jin and Chu Yan's bodies. Yang Jin, Wang Qiling, the county governor of Fair Mountain County, looked at Yang Jin with anticipation. He hoped Yang Jin would defeat Chu Yan and win the martial competition of the 16 counties. If Yang Jin defeated Chu Yan and won the martial competition of the 16 counties, Fair Mountain County would be able to obtain 3 mediocre celestial pills, the Great Overarching Pills, from King Qin's mansion. 3 great overarching pills would make 3 great overarching golden celestials. Yan the governor of the Lingfeng County, Chu Tingxian, was no longer as calm as before. His gaze towards Chu Yan was filled with anticipation and desire. He hoped Chu Yan would be able to defeat Yang Jin and win the martial competition of the 16 counties. This way, even if Duan Ling Tian, the trump card of 9 Spectres County, appeared after Chu Yan defeated Yang Jin, he would still be able to secure second place in the martial competition of the 16 counties and obtain 2 mediocre celestial pills, the Great Overarching Pills, for the Soaring Wind County. As long as Soaring Wind County obtained 2 great overarching pills, he would be able to break through and become an Earth-rank Great Overarching Golden Celestial. Unlike Chu Tingxian, who was worried about Duan Ling Tian, Wang Qiling, the county governor of Soaring Wind County was not worried about Duan Ling Tian. The county governor of Fair Mountain County, Wang Qiling, was not worried at all that Duan Ling Tian would appear. It wasn't because Wang Qiling thought that Fair Mountain County's trump card, Yang Jin, could defeat Duan Ling Tian, but because he knew that even if Duan Ling Tian appeared, he wouldn't be able to survive. The reason the gray-robed man beside him had appeared here was to wait for Duan Ling Tian to appear. Therefore, in his opinion, as long as Yang Jin could defeat Chu Yan, he would be the champion of the martial competition of the 16 counties, and Fair Mountain Prefecture would be rewarded handsomely by King Qin's mansion, 3 great Luo pills. In the end, he couldn't hold it in anymore. In the VIP spectator seats, Duan Ling Tian, who was originally staring intently at the intense battle between Yang Jin and Chu Yan, seemed to have noticed something as he secretly muttered in his heart. He also withdrew his gaze and did not take another look at Yang Jin and Chu Yan. Almost at the same time, Duan Ling Tian retracted his gaze. Bang! There was a deafening explosion. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yang Jin had lost his composure and revealed a flaw. Chu Yan's eyes turned cold and his lips curled into a smile. He took advantage of Yang Jin's flaw and went straight for the root of the problem. A vast amount of energy whizzed out from Chu Yan's palm and slammed into Yang Jin's body, directly sending him flying. Wah! After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Yang Jin did not pass out. However, his face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and his originally powerful aura had weakened significantly. In his current state, it was impossible for him to continue fighting with Chu Yan. If he continued, he would only be humiliating himself. Damn it! Because he realized this, Yang Jin's expression was very ugly, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. However, no matter how unwilling he was, he knew clearly that he had lost. He had been defeated. He had suffered a crushing defeat. Do you still want to continue? After severely injuring Yang Jin with one blow, Chu Yan looked at Yang Jin in high spirits and asked, "When I've recovered, I'll challenge you again. At that time, I won't be as careless as I was today." Yang Jin glanced coldly at Chu Yan. After saying this, he returned to the spectator stand where the people from Fair Mountain Prefecture were seated. He came before Wang Qiling, the county governor of Fair Mountain Prefecture, and lowered his head. He said apologetically, "County governor, I'm sorry to disappoint you." Wang Qiling sighed. Although he was unhappy, he did not show it. "It's all right. Even if you didn't win the martial competition of the 16 counties, you still won 2 great Luo pills for Fair Mountain Prefecture. It's just 1 less great Luo pill." "County governor, isn't it too early to say 2 great Luo pills? We don't even know if Duan Lingtian will show up. If he does, Yang Jin will have to settle for 3rd place in the martial competition of the 16 counties." An elder from Fair Mountain Prefecture said with a wry smile. "Duan Lingtian might not show up. Even if he does, he might not be able to win the martial competition of the 16 counties." Wang Qiling smiled coldly. It was as if he was 100% certain. Whether Duan Lingtian showed up or not, Yang Jin from Fair Mountain Prefecture would not be able to win the martial competition of the 16 counties. After hearing Wang Qiling's words, the elders and high officials of Fair Mountain Prefecture, as well as the group of young experts including Yang Jin, all looked at the mysterious man in the gray robe standing beside Wang Qiling. This man in the gray robe. Could he really be the person that the county governor hired to kill Duan Lingtian? "I don't think so." Now, not only is the 3rd prince of King Qin's mansion here, but even King Qin himself is here. Under such circumstances, not to mention the fact that the gray-robed man might not have the chance to kill Duan Lingtian, even if he kills Duan Lingtian, I'm afraid he won't be able to escape death. Moreover, our Fair Mountain County will definitely be implicated. I don't think so either. Even if the man in the gray robe manages to escape after killing Duan Lingtian, King Qin's mansion will definitely think that Fair Mountain Prefecture is trying to sabotage the martial competition of the 16 counties. At that time, King Qin's mansion will be extremely grateful if they don't punish Fair Mountain Prefecture. They won't even give us the rewards we deserve. If the man in the gray robe was not hired by the county governor to kill Duan Lingtian, where did the county governor get the confidence to say that even if Duan Lingtian showed up, he would not be able to win the martial competition of the 16 counties? The group of people from Fair Mountain Prefecture discussed among themselves using voice transmission. They could not figure it out. Where did the county governor of Fair Mountain County get the confidence to say that even if Duan Lingtian came, it would not affect Yang Jin's chances of winning 2nd place in the martial competition of the 16 counties? Chu Yen won. I didn't expect Chu Yen to win in the end. This time, Lingfeng Prefecture is in the limelight. Just now, I saw it clearly. It was because Yang Jin couldn't keep his composure that Chu Yen was able to take advantage of the opportunity and beat Yang Jin with 1 move. No matter what happened, a loss is a loss. Chu Yen is the final winner today. The final winner? It's too early to say that. After all, the trump card of 9 Spectres County, Duan Lingtian, hasn't shown up yet. That's right. Once Duan Lingtian shows up, Duan Lingtian will definitely win the martial competition of the 16 counties. If Duan Lingtian doesn't show up, Chu Yen will definitely be the final winner. Whether Duan Lingtian shows up or not, Chu Yen will definitely win the martial competition of the 16 counties this time. Moreover, he will be stepping on Yang Jin. A commotion broke out among the spectators. Many county governors of the various counties under King Qin's mansion took the initiative to congratulate Chu Tingxian, the county governor of Soaring Wind County. County Governor Chu, congratulations. Congratulations to your son for winning the martial competition of the 16 counties. County Governor Chu, I used to know that you have a daughter who's as good as a man. I didn't expect your son to be more outstanding than your daughter. I'm so envious. County Governor Chu, my daughter is an adult this year. Why don't we get married? Chu Tingxian, the county governor of Soaring Wind Prefecture, was overjoyed when he saw the group of county governors crowding around him. Unlike the other spectators' seats that were bustling with noise and excitement, the county governor of Soaring Wind Prefecture was in an uproar. The VIP spectator seats were noisy for a while, but they fell silent again. All of this was because of one person's words. Since Chu Yen won, doesn't that mean the primitive celestial alchemist from the Flying Dragon sect has won as well? When this sentence was spread in the VIP auditorium, a group of people in the VIP auditorium also thought, "That's right." Before the battle between Yang Jin and Chu Yen ended, there were two people in the VIP seats who had made a bet. Moreover, the third prince of King Qin's estate was the middleman and the notary of the bet. Moreover, the third prince was in charge of the bet as well. Zhou, the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect, has lost 50,000 prominent celestial stones. That's 50,000 prominent celestial stones. Many pairs of eyes landed on Zhou, the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect. His expression turned grave as he glared fiercely at Duan Ling Tian, who was surrounded by the people from the Flying Dragon sect like stars surrounding the moon. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian was no different from a hero in the eyes of the people from the Flying Dragon sect. Congratulations, revered Elder Tian Ling. Revered Elder Tian Ling, you've won. Consecrator Tian Ling, this time, you have helped our Flying Dragon sect vent our anger. The elders, revered elders, and disciples of the Flying Dragon sect praised Duan Ling Tian. Even Huang Guangji, the vice sect leader of the Flying Dragon sect, was beaming with joy at this moment. When he looked at Zhou again, he felt elated. It's just a stroke of luck. What's there to be proud of? That's right. Did he really think he could predict Chu Yen would win? What a joke. Chapter 2691. Thank you, Vice Sect Leader Zhou. After receiving the 2 spatial rings from the third prince of King Qin's mansion, Duan Ling Tian looked at Zhou, the Vice Sect Leader of the Poison King sect, and said in a hoarse voice with a smile on his face. Zhou An's expression turned unsightly as though he had just swallowed a fly. Do you dare to make another bet with me? Zhou An suddenly rose to his feet as though he had recalled something. He looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked in a deep voice. Another bet? Duan Ling Tian was taken aback. Then he asked, what do you want to bet? At the same time, the people in the VIP seats turned to look at Zhou An in unison. They were curious about what Zhou An wanted to bet with the celestial alchemist of the Flying Dragon sect. It seems like the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect is unwilling to admit defeat. The third prince of King Qin's mansion laughed. The sounds in the area behind the curtain couldn't be heard from the outside, but the people in the area behind the curtain could clearly hear the sounds outside the curtain. The curtains were only soundproof to the outside world. I'm curious. What else can he bet at a time like this? Qin Yu asked. At a time like this, other than betting on whether Duan Ling Tian, the trump card of the 9 Spectres County, will show up or not, what else can he bet on? A hint of wisdom flashed in King Qin's eyes. Based on his words, it was as though he had guessed the thoughts of the Poison King sect's vice sect leader, Zhou, and betting on whether Duan Ling Tian will show up or not? Qin Yu was stunned. If I'm not mistaken, the third prince of King Qin's mansion narrowed his eyes. The third prince narrowed his eyes when he heard King Qin's words. He smiled faintly as he said, he'll definitely bet that Duan Ling Tian, the trump card of the 9 Spectres County, won't show up. It's very likely that Duan Ling Tian won't show up. Isn't he a little too shameless? Although Qin Yu also hoped that Duan Ling Tian would not show up, he could not help but feel that the third prince of King Qin's mansion was too shameless. If the Poison King sect's vice sect leader Zhou An did that, he would be extremely shameless. Moreover, will the primitive celestial alchemist in the Flying Dragon sect agree to such a bet? In my opinion, unless the Flying Dragon sect's primitive celestial alchemist was kicked in the head by a donkey, it's impossible for him to agree to such a bet. Qin Yu said. Fortunately, Duan Ling Tian did not hear what Qin Yu said. Otherwise, he would definitely be speechless. What did he mean by saying that if he agreed, his head would be kicked by a donkey? Wasn't he intentionally scolding him? It's just as you said. Unless the Flying Dragon sect's primitive celestial alchemist has lost his mind, he won't agree to such a bet. The third prince said with a smile. At the same time, the Poison King sect's vice sect leader, Zhou An, opened his mouth and said under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Let's see if Duan Ling Tian, the trump card of 9 Spectres County, will participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. As soon as Zhou An finished speaking, the entire place fell silent. After a while, many people in the VIP seats shook their heads and said, "There's no point in betting with this bet. Indeed, this bet is completely meaningless. Duan Lingtian, the trump card of 9 Spectres County, hasn't shown up yet. This means he won't show up. Unless Zhouan, the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect, is betting that Duan Lingtian will show up. Otherwise, who would be willing to bet with him? Will he bet that Duan Lingtian will show up?" The people in the VIP seats discussed among themselves as they looked at Zhouan. They were curious if Zhouan would bet that Duan Lingtian would show up and participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. Even the people from the Flying Dragon sect were looking at Zhou and looked at Duan Lingtian and said calmly, "I'll bet 100,000 prominent celestial stones that Duan Lingtian, the trump card of 9 Spectres County, won't show up." The people in the VIP seats thought Zhouan was shameless when they heard his words. However, Zhouan continued to say, "Since I have a higher chance of winning, you can bet 50,000 prominent celestial stones that Duan Lingtian will show up." As soon as Zhouan finished speaking, Huang Guangji, the vice sect leader of the Flying Dragon sect, could not help but spit on the ground. "Shameless. Zhouan, you're too shameless. Shameless. How shameless. I'm afraid only a shameless person from the Poison King sect would come up with such a bet. Since Duan Lingtian, the trump card of 9 Spectres County, hasn't shown up yet, it's highly likely that he won't show up. Even if Zhouan used 200,000 prominent celestial stones to bet on revered Elder Tianling's 50,000 prominent celestial stones, revered Elder Tianling would still be at a disadvantage. Only a fool would agree to such a bet." The group of people from the Flying Dragon sect looked at Zhouan and discussed among themselves. They all felt that Zhouan was shameless. Even the people from the Poison King sect felt that their vice sect leader was shameless. However, they could not help an outsider to scold their vice sect leader, right? Therefore, they looked at the people from the Flying Dragon sect and retorted, "What do you mean by shameless? If the people from the Flying Dragon sect don't dare to accept the bet, just say so. Do you think we're going to hold a knife to your neck and force you to accept the bet? That's right. Just say so if you don't dare to accept the bet." In my opinion, the people from the Flying Dragon sect are terrified. The people from the Poison King sect argued as they looked at the people from the Flying Dragon sect. "Shameless. How shameless." Now, the group of people in the VIP seats who were not from the Flying Dragon sect and the Poison King sect, after hearing the unreasonable words of the Poison King sect's people, not only did they feel that the Poison King sect's vice sect leader Zhouan was shameless, they even felt that the Poison King sect's people were shameless. The people from the Poison King sect are too shameless. Behind the curtain, Qin Yu felt indignant on behalf of the Flying Dragon sect. In this world, there are many shameless people. This is nothing. The third prince shook his head and said, "In fact, we all know who's the shameless one here. No one will accept the bet anyway." Meanwhile, County Governor Tian, the host of the martial competition of the 16 counties, looked at the people from the 9 Spectres County and locked his gaze on Tian Jiyu, the county governor of the 9 Spectres County. "Will the trump card of 9 Spectres County forfeit?" the host asked bluntly. "My lord, I hope you can wait a little longer," Tian Jiyu said reluctantly. Until now, he still had not seen Duan Lingtian. Although he did not think it was likely that Duan Lingtian would show up, he was still unwilling to give up. Subconsciously, he hoped that Duan Lingtian would show up and bring hope to 9 Spectres County. For this reason, he wanted to buy some time. What if Duan Lingtian showed up in the next moment? What are you still waiting for? The trump card of 9 Spectres County must be that Duan Lingtian. If that Duan Lingtian wanted to show up, he would have been here a long time ago. Why hasn't he shown up yet? In my opinion, it's a waste of time to wait. Duan Lingtian won't show up. At practically the instant Tian Jiyu's voice sounded out, similar voices rose and fell from the spectator stands around the combat arena. More than 99% of the people thought Duan Lingtian would not show up. The host of the martial competition of the 16 counties frowned slightly when he heard Tian Jiyu's words. In the end, he took out a communication celestial talisman and infused it with his celestial origin energy before he sent it to the area behind the VIP seats. He was seeking the opinion of the third prince, who was in charge of the martial competition of the 16 counties. "Big brother, do you think it's necessary to wait?" the third prince asked King Qin when he received the communication celestial talisman. "Let's wait for an hour." King Qin's eyes flashed as he said, "This is my way of expressing my admiration for Duan Lingtian. After all, it's not easy for such a monstrous genius to appear in King Qin's mansion's territory." "All right." The third prince nodded and replied to the host of the martial competition of the 16 counties with a communications celestial talisman. After the host of the martial competition of the 16 counties received the communications celestial talisman, he immediately announced under everyone's watchful eyes, "Lord King Qin has ordered that 9 Spectres County be given another hour due to his admiration for Duan Lingtian, the monstrous genius from 9 Spectres County. If 9 Spectres County's trump card does not show up after an hour, the martial competition of the 16 counties will end. At that time, Chu Yen from the Soaring Wind County will be ranked first in the martial competition of the 16 counties." The host finished his sentence in one breath. Everyone present thought it was a waste of time to wait for an hour. However, since it was their King Qin's mansion who had spoken, they did not dare to complain even if they were dissatisfied. To them, King Qin's mansion's territory, King Qin was a lofty and inviolable existence. "Thank you, Lord King Qin." Upon hearing the host's words, Tian Jiyu, the county governor of 9 Spectres County, hurriedly bowed to the VIP seats to express his gratitude. However, his heart was heavy, and the pressure he felt increased. At this moment, he even felt a little regretful. He regretted not buying time for Duan Lingtian. It was as the majority of the people had said. If Duan Lingtian wanted to show up, he would have done so long ago. It was impossible that he had not shown up yet. "Lord County Governor, is there a need to wait? I'm sure Duan Lingtian won't be coming back." Pang Bing, the inner court elder of the county governor's mansion in 9 Spectres County, said. At this moment, even the inner mansion's elder, Zheng Qiu, who had always supported Duan Lingtian, fell silent at this moment. This was because he did not have the confidence to do so. At this moment, he did not think Duan Lingtian would show up. However, since Duan Lingtian didn't come, something must have happened to him. Otherwise, with his temper and character, it's impossible for him to not come. Chapter 2692. It seems like I have no choice but to show myself this time. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. He was wearing a black celestial master's robe with the word Kuan written on it. When Tian Jiyu, the county governor of 9 Spectres County, was trying to buy time for him, Duan Lingtian had already made a decision in a flash of lightning. If Tian Jiyu managed to buy time for him, he would show himself and win the martial competition of the 16 counties. If he failed, he would not show himself and think of a way to compensate Tian Jiyu and Zheng Qiu. He had promised Tian Jiyu and Zheng Qiu that he would do his best to win the martial competition of the 16 counties and obtain the mediocre celestial pill, the great overarching pill, for them. Now that Tian Jiyu had bought time for him, Duan Lingtian thought to himself, it's all thanks to Tian Jiyu. It's all because of fate. What do you think? Do you dare to accept this bet that I've made? At the same time, an irritating voice rang in Duan Lingtian's ears. It was Zhouan, the vice-sect leader of the Poison King sect, who felt that he could continue to bet with the primitive celestial alchemist of the Flying Dragon sect after seeing that the county governor of 9 Spectres County had bought time for Duan Lingtian. If the county governor of 9 Spectres County did not buy time for Duan Lingtian and announce the end of the martial competition of the 16 counties, then the bet would be meaningless. Shameless! Huang Guangji, the vice-sect leader of the Flying Dragon sect, glared at Zhouan. Then he said to Duan Lingtian, "Revered Elder Tian Ling, ignore him. He's a mad dog who will bite whoever he catches. He's trying to use this unfair bet to win back the 50,000 prominent celestial stones." After saying that, Huang Guangji looked at Zhouan again and put on an expression that said, "I've seen through you long ago." "Huang Guangji, I'll bet with him." "What are you talking about?" Zhou said angrily with a dark expression on his face. Revered Elder Tianling is a revered elder of the Flying Dragon sect. Naturally, I won't let him lose. Huang Guangji said matter-of-factly. Apart from Duan Lingtian himself, everyone in the VIP seats, including Zhou and the others from the Poison King sect, felt that it was impossible for Duan Lingtian to agree to Zhou's bet. Duan Lingtian said calmly in a hoarse voice, "That's right. I can agree to this bet of yours, but the stakes have to be changed. Because anyone with a discerning eye can see that the current bet is unfair to me." As soon as Duan Lingtian said this, the entire VIP audience fell into a dead silence. The primitive celestial alchemist from the Flying Dragon sect actually agreed to Zhou's shameless bet? Was he crazy? At this moment, it was not only the others who looked at Duan Lingtian as though they were looking at an idiot. Even the people from the Flying Dragon sect looked at Duan Lingtian in confusion. They could not understand why revered Elder Tianling of the Flying Dragon sect would agree to Zhou's shameless bet. Zhou, the person who had made the bet, was also stunned when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would agree to the bet. After all, he was the one who had made the bet. Duan Lingtian would definitely win. Are you serious? Are you really going to agree to my bet? Zhou looked at Duan Lingtian intently and said, "Let me make this clear. If you agree to my bet, you can only bet that Duan Lingtian will participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties because I've already bet that Duan Lingtian won't participate." Zhou was worried that Duan Lingtian would also bet that Duan Lingtian would not participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. If that was the case, his bet would be meaningless. After all, it was impossible for him to bet that Duan Lingtian would participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. Duan Lingtian snorted and said disdainfully, "Do you think everyone is as shameless as you?" Zhou was not angry when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He could already see 50,000 prominent celestial stones waving at him. "You said you were going to change the bet. Are you trying to say that I didn't bet enough and that it's unfair to you? As long as you agree to the bet and bet that Duan Lingtian will participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties in the next hour, I can increase the bet to 200,000 prominent celestial stones. Is that enough? If you win, I'll give you 200,000 prominent celestial stones. If I win, you only have to give me 50,000 prominent celestial stones." Zhou said. As soon as Zhou finished speaking, Duan Lingtian could not help but laugh. "Vice Sect Leader Zhou, you just gave me 50,000 prominent celestial stones. Now, I'm afraid you don't even have 100,000 prominent celestial stones, let alone 200,000 prominent celestial stones, right?" The Poison King sect was wealthier than any of the counties under King Qin's mansion. However, it would be difficult for a vice sect leader of the Poison King sect to have more than 100,000 prominent celestial stones. For this reason, Duan Lingtian was certain Zhou was not a vice sect leader. It was impossible for Zhou to have 200,000 prominent celestial stones. If vice sect leader Zhou wants to gain something without risking anything, forgive me for not agreeing to your bet. Duan Lingtian could not help but laugh mockingly when he reached the end of his sentence. It's true that I don't have 200,000 prominent celestial stones, but are you worried that the Poison King sect won't be able to come up with 200,000 prominent celestial stones? Zhou's face paled when he heard Duan Lingtian's mocking words. In the end, he had no choice but to bring up the Poison King sect and said the Poison King sect would pay the 200,000 prominent celestial stones. "Can you represent the Poison King sect?" Duan Lingtian continued to mock Zhou. "What a joke." Zhou said in a deep voice, "I'm the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect, and I'm the younger brother of the sect leader. Do you think I can represent the Poison King sect? It seems like I've underestimated you." Duan Lingtian said indifferently as he narrowed his eyes. "Cut the crap." Zhou said coldly, "If you want to accept the bet, then accept it. If you don't, then admit defeat." "Of course, I'll accept the bet." Duan Lingtian looked at Zhou deeply before he said slowly, "However, don't you think you're taking advantage of me by betting 200,000 prominent celestial stones?" Why don't I bet 200,000 prominent celestial stones that Duan Lingtian won't participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties, and you bet 50,000 prominent celestial stones that Duan Lingtian will participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. How about we swap bets? Duan Lingtian continued to say, how many prominent celestial stones do you think I should bet? Naturally, Zhou En would not agree to Duan Lingtian's request. He was certain that Duan Lingtian, the trump card of 9 Spectres County, would not participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties in the next hour. If Duan Lingtian really wanted to participate in the martial competition, he would have arrived a long time ago. 500,000 prominent celestial stones. Duan Lingtian said indifferently. All right, 500,000 prominent celestial stones it is. Zhou En agreed without hesitation. He was confident that he would win. Even if he had to bet 500,000 prominent celestial stones on Duan Lingtian's 50,000 prominent celestial stones, he would still be willing to bet. At this moment, Zhou En was still unaware of the fact that Duan Lingtian was hiding in the shadows. The black-robed man in front of him was setting him up step by step. He did not realize that he was slowly falling into Duan Lingtian's trap. Also, I have another condition. Duan Lingtian spoke again. Speak. Zhou En said impatiently with a frown. Why you have to invite the third prince of King Qin's mansion or King Qin to be the notary of our bet? After all, with your shamelessness, I'm worried you'll renege on your bet. Duan Lingtian stated his condition. You? Zhou En was infuriated when he heard Duan Lingtian calling him shameless and suspecting him of reneging on his bet. I can be the notary of your bet. At this moment, the third prince of King Qin's mansion stepped out from behind the curtain and looked at Duan Lingtian meaningfully. He could not figure it out. Why would the Flying Dragon Sect's primitive celestial alchemist agree to Zhou En's shameless bet? Could the third prince not see that Zhou En would definitely win? However, even if he could not figure it out, he was still willing to be the notary of the bet. After all, he wanted to see how the primitive celestial alchemist of the Flying Dragon Sect would react after losing the bet. Thank you, third prince. After thanking the third prince of King Qin's mansion, Duan Lingtian handed the spatial ring that contained 50,000 prominent celestial stones to the third prince. The number is correct. After confirming the number of celestial stones in the spatial ring, the third prince looked at Zhou En and said indifferently, if you lose, King Qin's mansion will first collect the 500,000 prominent celestial stones from the Poison King sect. After that, we'll transfer the celestial stones to revered Elder Tian Ling from the Flying Dragon sect. If I lose, the Poison King sect will immediately send the 500,000 prominent celestial stones to King Qin's mansion when I return. Zhou En said nonchalantly. At this moment, he did not think he would lose at all. That's good. The third prince nodded and did not say anything else. He was not worried the Poison King sect would renege on their bet. Thank you for the 500,000 prominent celestial stones. When the third prince nodded, the people in the VIP seats looked at Duan Lingtian as though they were looking at an idiot. At this moment, Duan Lingtian suddenly pulled the robe off his head, revealing his handsome face. He grinned at Zhou. At this moment, his voice was no longer as hoarse as before. He had finally revealed his true appearance. When Duan Lingtian pulled down the robe that covered his head and revealed his true appearance, the group of people in the VIP spectator seats were greatly shocked. Initially, when they heard the voice of the primitive celestial alchemist from the Flying Dragon sect, they thought he was an old man. But he didn't expect that the voice was fake. Chapter 2693. Revered Elder Tian Ling. He looks like this? All this while, I've only heard Revered Elder Tian Ling's voice. I thought he was an old man. I didn't expect him to be so young. I didn't expect this at all. I really didn't expect this. The group of people from the Flying Dragon sect, including Vice Sect Leader Huang Guangji, could not help but exclaim. Even for them, this was the first time they had seen the true face of their Flying Dragon sect's revered Elder Tian Ling. For a moment, they could not help but be shocked. Bang! Accompanied by an enormous bang, Duan Lingtian abruptly exerted strength with his legs and stomped on the ground to rise up, causing the thick ground to shatter into pieces at the same time as his entire body had already soared into the sky above the combat arena. In just a blink of an eye, he was close to the host of the martial competition of the 16 counties. 9 Spectres County, Duan Ling Tian. When Duan Ling Tian's indifferent voice spread out towards the surroundings, he was already standing in the sky above the combat ring, and he stood in confrontation with the Soaring Wind County's trump card, Chu Yen. From the beginning until the end, Duan Ling Tian's expression was calm. It was as though he could remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. 9 Spectres County, Duan Ling Tian. As soon as these 6 words left Duan Ling Tian's mouth, it spread like wildfire in the air. When the people saw the purple figure in the air, they were in an uproar. Even more people were shocked to the point of standing up from their seats. When they secretly gasped, their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. As soon as Duan Ling Tian left the VIP seats, he removed the Celestial Master's robe with the word Kun on it, revealing his purple robes. Duan Ling Tian is here. He's Duan Ling Tian. I thought the martial competition of the 16 counties would end after Chu Yen defeated Yang Jin. Who would have thought that after the county governor of 9 Spectres County bought an hour for their trump card, Duan Ling Tian would appear? It seems like the county governor of 9 Spectres County knew Duan Ling Tian would come, so he bought some time for him. That must be it. In the surroundings of the combat arena, besides the group of people in the VIP spectating area who were still in a dazed state, the other spectating areas were extremely bustling, and a group of people were discussing animatedly. Many people shifted their gazes from Duan Ling Tian to Tian Jiyu, the county governor of 9 Spectres County. However, most people's eyes were still locked onto Duan Ling Tian. They stared at Duan Ling Tian, as if they were afraid that Duan Ling Tian would disappear in the blink of an eye. He's the Duan Ling Tian whose name shook the entire Duke of Qin's manor a few months ago? He's not even 100 years old, but his strength is already comparable to a golden celestial? In the past, I don't think there has ever been such a monster in the territories ruled by King Qin's manor, right? A year ago, he was so strong that even Pang Bing, the inner mansion elder of the county governor's estate in 9 Spectres County, felt inferior to him. Now that a year has passed, I'm sure he's even stronger than before, right? Perhaps, he's already a great overarching golden celestial now. A golden celestial who's not even 100 years old. Such a person is rare even in the high-rank celestial kingdoms, let alone the intermediate-rank celestial kingdom, the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom, which is under King Qin's manor's jurisdiction. Numerous burning gazes landed on Duan Ling Tian, causing him to become the absolute center of attention. Before Duan Ling Tian's appearance, Duan Ling Tian had attracted the most attention among the 13 trump cards selected by the 13 counties in the martial competition of the 16 counties. Even before Duan Ling Tian's appearance, many people were still talking about him, saying that Chu Yen would not be able to win the martial competition of the 16 counties. However, Duan Ling Tian had appeared. Everyone's attention was completely focused on him. Almost no one was distracted. Duan Ling Tian? Qin Yu abruptly rose from his luxurious seat behind the curtain of the VIP spectator area. He was happy that Duan Ling Tian was safe and sound. However, when he thought about the possibility that the powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect was targeting Duan Ling Tian, his expression changed immediately. According to his uncle, the powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect was a Celestial Duke. A Celestial Duke was a powerhouse that was superior to an overarching heavenly supreme celestial. If such a powerhouse attacked with all his might, he could even annihilate King Qin's manor. Duan Ling Tian, why did you come out at this time? Even if you want to come out, you should have contacted me first. At this moment, Qin Yu's heart was filled with bitterness and helplessness. At this moment, he did not use voice transmission to communicate with Duan Ling Tian because he knew it was too late even if he did so now. If the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect was targeting Duan Ling Tian, it would be futile even if he warned Duan Ling Tian. On the other hand, if the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect was not targeting Duan Ling Tian, he would only distract Duan Ling Tian. After all, Duan Lingtian was preparing to participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties and fight Chu Yen from the Soaring Wind County. I hope the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect isn't targeting Duan Lingtian. Qin Yu prayed inwardly. However, I didn't expect Duan Lingtian to be sitting in the VIP spectator area so close to me. Why didn't he send me a voice transmission? If he had sent me a voice transmission, I could have contacted him privately and asked if he had any enmity with the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. Qin Yu sighed inwardly. Earlier, he had also noticed the commotion in the VIP spectator area. But because there were many people in the VIP spectating area between him and Duan Lingtian, he didn't see Duan Lingtian's true appearance clearly at the first possible moment, and it was to the extent that he didn't have the time to react before Duan Lingtian appeared in the sky above the combat arena. By the time he regained his senses, Duan Lingtian had already appeared in the air above the combat ring in front of everyone. He was Duan Lingtian from the 9 Spectres County. So he's Duan Lingtian? King Qin, who was sitting at the side, looked at the purple-clad young man in the air above the combat ring. Yes. Qin Yu smiled wryly. I didn't expect him to be here so early. I also didn't expect him to be the primitive celestial alchemist from the Flying Dragon sect. He's very well hidden, King Qin said. At the same time, King Qin was also puzzled. Since Duan Lingtian had come to the martial competition of the 16 counties, why did he not show up? Why did he only show up now? If King Qin had not agreed to the county governor's request to wait for Duan Lingtian, the martial competition of the 16 counties would have ended earlier. Once the martial competition of the 16 counties ended, it would be meaningless for Duan Lingtian to show up again. However, Duan Lingtian had appeared again. Moreover, he had not just arrived. In fact, he had arrived a long time ago and was hiding in the VIP spectator area with another identity. This is King Qin's mansion. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have to worry about the people from the other 15 counties plotting against him. Why hasn't he shown up yet? Why did he almost miss the martial competition of the 16 counties? Could it be that he knows the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect is targeting him? However, that doesn't make sense. If he knows the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect is targeting him, why would he show up now? Even if he guessed the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect might not be here, there's no need for him to take the risk, right? The more King Qin thought about it, the more confused he became. At the same time, King Qin could not help but look at the people from Fair Mountain County. Finally, his gaze landed on the gray-robed man standing next to Wang Qiling, the county governor of Fair Mountain County. The gray-robed man was a core elder of the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect, a Celestial Duke. Senior, Duan Lingtian has shown up. Why aren't you making a move yet? Wang Qiling, the county governor of Fair Mountain County, became anxious when he saw Duan Lingtian had shown up for a while, but the person next to him did not seem to have any intention of making a move. If the person next to him made a move after Duan Lingtian had defeated Chu Yen, then Duan Lingtian would be ranked first in the martial competition of the 16 counties. At that time, Fair Mountain County would have one less mediocre celestial pill, the Great Overarching Pill. At that time, Yang Jin from Fair Mountain County would only be ranked third in the martial competition of the 16 counties. He would only be able to obtain one Great Overarching Pill for Fair Mountain County. Wang Qiling had thought the person next to Duan Lingtian would kill Duan Lingtian as soon as Duan Lingtian appeared. He did not expect the person next to him would not make a move. It's not up to you to tell me what to do. The old woman's cold voice rang from under the gray-robed man's robe. When Wang Qiling heard this, his face turned pale again. He lowered his head and said apologetically, "Senior, I was too impatient. I was too impatient." Although Wang Qiling did not know the old woman's identity, he knew that she was a Celestial Duke. However, after the confrontation between King Qin and the old woman, he realized something was amiss. Even King Qin would have to lower his head in front of this old woman. At that time, King Qin had asked him to say that the old woman was deaf and mute to give him a way out. How could someone who even King Qin had to give him a way out be an ordinary person? King Qin's actions showed that even he could not afford to offend this old woman. How could a mere county governor under King Qin's command offend someone that even King Qin could not afford to offend? Wang Qiling was certain. Even if the old woman killed him now, he would die in vain. King Qin would not avenge him, and he might not even have the ability to do so. Because of this, when he heard the cold anger in the old woman's tone, he also felt a bit of fear and trepidation. He's Duan Lingtian? The man who took Miss Binger's virginity? Chapter 2694. Although Duan Lingtian had appeared, the old lady was not in a hurry to make a move. She knew that since Duan Lingtian had appeared right in front of her, it meant that Duan Lingtian would not be able to escape. He would die sooner or later. If that was the case, why should she be in a hurry? However, the county governor of Fair Mountain County, Wang Qiling, who was beside her, was extremely anxious. Of course, he did not dare to urge the old lady to make a move. He could only wait anxiously. Duan Lingtian is here? The elders and honorary elders of Fair Mountain County who came with Wang Qiling could not help but smile bitterly. I thought Yang Jin would be able to obtain second place in the martial competition of the 16 counties and obtain 2 great overarching pills for Fair Mountain County. It seems like there's no hope now. Duan Lingtian has appeared. Yang Jin is destined to be third place in the martial competition of the 16 counties. With the appearance of Duan Lingtian, there's only 1 great overarching pill left. This Duan Lingtian really came at the right time. Although the elders and honorary elders of Fair Mountain County were helpless, they knew that they could not change anything. This Duan Lingtian, of all times, he chose this moment to appear. Although this was the first time Yang Jin had seen Duan Lingtian, his eyes were filled with hostility as he looked at the Duan Lingtian who was hovering in the air above the combat ring. The reason he was hostile to Duan Lingtian was that with the appearance of Duan Lingtian, he would only be third place in the martial competition of the 16 counties. As a result, not only would Fair Mountain County receive less rewards from King Qin's mansion, but he would also receive less rewards from King Qin's mansion. Naturally, he was unhappy. The situation in Soaring Wind County was similar to that in Fair Mountain County. The elders and honorary elders of Soaring Wind County who came with Chu Tingxian could not help but sigh when they saw Duan Lingtian. 3 great overarching pills. It's going to be too soon. This Duan Lingtian actually came. Perhaps this is fate. Chu Tingxian shook his head. However, 2 great overarching pills is not bad. I should be content. He's Duan Lingtian. Standing beside Chu Tingxian, the valiant Chu Yu's gaze was currently focused on Duan Lingtian, the depths of her eyes rippling with extraordinary splendor. Although she was usually carefree, no different from a man. However, in the end, she was still a woman. In the past, she only worshipped her big brother, Chu Yan. She felt that only a man who was as outstanding as her big brother or even more outstanding than her big brother was worthy of her. It was not until she heard about Duan Lingtian's deeds in 9 Spectres County that she realized something was amiss. In the territories under the Duke of Qin's estate, there was actually a man who was more outstanding than her elder brother. Even though Yang Jin from the Fair Mountain Commandery was quite strong. However, Yang Jin was more than 20 years older than her big brother. In terms of innate talent, he was far inferior to her big brother. For this reason, she did not think highly of him. On the other hand, although Duan Lingtian was the same age as Yang Jin, his innate talent was not something her big brother could compare to. At that time, although she had not met Duan Lingtian, she was attracted to Duan Lingtian. Although it sounded ridiculous, it was the truth. She was a strong woman who had never been attracted to any man since she was young. She even thought that she would spend the rest of her life alone because there was no man who could attract her. However, when she found out that there was such an outstanding man in King Qin's estate, she was instantly attracted to him. Naturally, if she met Duan Lingtian, she would not be attracted to Duan Lingtian because his appearance and temperament were not to her liking. This was similar to Duan Lingtian's previous life on Earth. They chatted well on the internet, but when they met in real life, they realized they did not like each other. Therefore, they would delete each other and go their separate ways. Yet now, when he saw Duan Ling Tian in person, that perfect facial features, that otherworldly and graceful bearing, Chu Yu could feel his heartbeat speeding up without end. In the end, she felt as though her heart was about to jump out of her chest. I, Chu Yu, will marry no one but him in my life. Chu Yu swore in her heart as she looked at Duan Ling Tian. Before she met Duan Ling Tian, she had not met Duan Ling Tian in person. She had only heard about Duan Ling Tian's deeds and innate talent. Therefore, she was only slightly attracted to Duan Ling Tian. Now that she had met Duan Ling Tian in person, her heart had completely fallen for him. Sometimes, matters of the heart were just so wonderful. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian was completely unaware that he had won the heart of a woman without her knowledge. Moreover, it was the heart of the younger sister of Chu Yen, who was about to fight him. If he knew, he would be speechless and helpless. After all, he had two wives now. One was his confidant, and the other was Murong Bing, who was not officially his wife but was in fact his wife. This was enough to give him a headache. How could he be in the mood to flirt with other women? Damn it! Why is he here? Over at Luofu County, both the county governor and the trump card of Luofu County, Xingdong, had ugly expressions on their faces. If Duan Ling Tian had not come, it was almost certain that Xingdong would be ranked 10th in the martial competition of the 16 counties. However, now that Duan Ling Tian had come, Xingdong was destined to be kicked out of the top 10. Not only would Xingdong not receive any rewards from King Qin's mansion, but the Luofu County would also be punished by King Qin's mansion. In the next 10 years, they would have to pay more prominent celestial stones to King Qin's mansion. The atmosphere was different from the people from Fair Mountain County, Soaring Wind County, and Luofu County. Over at Nine Spectres County, the atmosphere was no longer gloomy and was replaced by excitement and joy. Ah, Duan Ling Tian is finally here. Tian Jiyu, the county governor of Nine Spectres County, laughed heartily without caring about his image. He was as happy as a child. I knew he wouldn't break his promise so easily. Jing Qiu, the inner mansion elder, was also smiling. At least he still has some conscience. Pang Bing snorted coldly. The other people from Nine Spectres County were also very happy. In the VIP seats. No wonder he dared to make such a bet with Zhouan, the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect. As it turns out, he's Duan Ling Tian. I didn't expect revered Elder Tian Ling from the Flying Dragon sect to be Duan Ling Tian from the Nine Spectres County. This time, Zhouan, the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect, has suffered a huge loss. 500,000 prominent celestial stones against Duan Ling Tian's 50,000 prominent celestial stones. I thought he would definitely win. However, it seems like he's going to go for wool and come home shorn. 500,000 prominent celestial stones. Even if the Poison King sect were to take out such a huge amount of prominent celestial stones, they would still suffer a huge loss, right? The Poison King sect is going to lose this time. Many people discussed among themselves as they looked at Zhouan, the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect, in unison. These gazes were looking at Zhouan as though they were looking at an idiot. At this moment, almost everyone in the VIP seats realized that Zhouan, the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect, from the moment revered Elder Tian Ling from the Flying Dragon sect agreed to Zhouan's bet, Zhouan had fallen into revered Elder Tian Ling's trap. This was because revered Elder Tian Ling was none other than Duan Ling Tian. Since revered Elder Tian Ling was Duan Ling Tian, it was up to him to decide if he would participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. Huang Guangji, the vice sect leader of the Flying Dragon sect, laughed heartily as he looked at Zhouan, 500,000 prominent celestial stones. That's 500,000 prominent celestial stones. Have you thought about how you're going to explain this to the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect? Previously, Zhouan looked at revered Elder Tian Ling as though he was an idiot. Now, it seems like he's the real idiot. He thought he would definitely win, but he didn't expect revered Elder Tian Ling to be Duan Ling Tian. He could easily decide the outcome of the bet. Revered Elder Tian Ling's role is similar to a swindler who isn't a swindler. I'm sure Zhouan feels worse than if he had eaten a fly, right? Of course. That's 500,000 prominent celestial stones we're talking about. The group of people from the Flying Dragon sect looked at Zhou and mockingly. At this moment, it was as though they had forgotten about Zhou, and previously, when revered Elder Tianling agreed to Zhou and's bet, they had looked at revered Elder Tianling skeptically. They thought revered Elder Tianling was just giving Zhou and celestial stones. Meanwhile, the group of people in the VIP seats looked at Zhou and with a hint of pity in their eyes. The group of people from the Poison King sect only looked at their vice sect leader, Zhouan, without saying a word. If Zhouan was not the vice sect leader of the Poison King sect but an ordinary disciple, they would have scolded him for being an idiot. Zhouan stood rooted to the ground with an unsightly expression on his face. He could still remember. Earlier, when the primitive celestial alchemist from the Flying Dragon sect agreed to his bet, he felt as though his 50,000 prominent celestial stones had returned to him. It did not cross his mind at all. He did not expect the primitive celestial alchemist from the Flying Dragon sect to be Duan Lington, the trump card of the 9 Spectres County. But it doesn't count. This bet doesn't count. He's Duan Ling Tian. He can decide the outcome of this bet with just a thought. He's cheating. He's cheating. This bet must be voided. It must be voided. After a while, Zhouan regained his senses. When he saw the pitiful looks from the group of people in the VIP seats, he began to shout like a madman. 500,000 prominent celestial stones. If the Poison King sect lost 500,000 high-grade immortal stones because of him, even if he didn't die when he returned to the Poison King sect, he would at least lose a layer of skin. The elders, revered elders, and the 2 supreme elders who were on par with his elder brother would definitely not let him off so easily. Humph. Chapter 2695. Third Prince. Zhouan's face was as pale as a sheet of paper when he regained his senses. He looked at the third prince of King Qin's mansion fearfully. I know you're the judge of the bet between me and revered Elder Tianling from the Flying Dragon sect. However, I didn't know he's Duan Ling Tian, the trump card of 9 Spectres County. If I had known he was Duan Lingen, I wouldn't have agreed to the bet even if he asked me to bet 5,000 prominent celestial stones. So, this bet was unfair in the first place. Zhouan's voice was laced with anger when he spoke. Zhouan knew very well that King Qin's mansion was not an option. The person who could decide whether the bet was voided or not was not him or Duan Ling Tian. It was the third prince of King Qin's mansion who was standing before him. He could go back on his word in front of Duan Ling Tian. However, he could not go back on his word in front of the third prince. What a joke! Almost as soon as Zhouan finished speaking and before the third prince could say anything, Huang Guangji, the vice sect leader of the Flying Dragon sect, could not help but laugh mockingly. Zhouan, don't you think it's embarrassing for you to say such words? Don't you think it's ridiculous? Don't forget that you're the one who initiated the bet with revered Elder Tianling. Revered Elder Tianling didn't initiate the bet. When consecrated Tianling agreed to your bet, you must have been very happy, right? You must have thought the 50,000 prominent celestial stones would be yours again, right? Why didn't you say the bet was unfair at that time? Now that you know revered Elder Tianling is Duan Ling Tian and you know you're going to lose, you're saying the bet is unfair? As he spoke, the mocking smile on Huang Guangji's face grew wider. At the same time, his gaze left Zhouan for a while and swept across the people from the other forces in the VIP spectator seats. Everyone, let's be fair. Do you think this bet is unfair? Do you think that this bet should be cancelled and should not be counted? Although Huang Guangji did not know why Duan Ling Tian, the monstrous genius from 9 Spectres County, wanted to join the Flying Dragon sect as a primitive celestial alchemist, Huang Guangji did not know why Duan Ling Tian wanted to join the Flying Dragon sect even though he was a primitive celestial alchemist. However, after Duan Ling Tian joined the Flying Dragon sect and became their revered elder, he did not do anything to let the Flying Dragon sect down. Instead, he had helped the Flying Dragon sect to refine a batch of high-quality primitive celestial pills. Under such circumstances, one side was Duan Ling Tian while the other side was the Poison King sect. Naturally, he would help Duan Ling Tian. I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen someone as shameless as Vice Sect Leader. That's right. When this Poison King Sect's Vice Sect Leader Zhou made this bet, I already felt that he was extremely shameless. But now, seeing that he was about to lose, he went back on his word and said that this bet didn't count. Simply shameless to the extreme. I really don't know how the Poison King Sect has someone like him. Moreover, he's a Vice Sect Leader. Earlier he said he's the younger brother of the sect leader of the Poison King Sect. It seems like he only became the Vice Sect Leader of the Poison King Sect because of his relationship with the Poison King Sect. The Poison King Sect is on the decline. How can any Tom, Dick, or Harry become a Vice Sect Leader? Moreover, he's a disgrace to the Poison King Sect. The other forces in the VIP seats did not have any ties with the Flying Dragon Sect and the Poison King Sect, nor did they have any enmity with them. For this reason, the people from the various forces were neutral when they discussed this matter. However, all of them felt Zhou, the Vice Sect Leader of the Poison King Sect, was shameless. They felt the bet between Zhou and Duan Lingtian should not be cancelled. The voices of the VIP seats rang out in unison. Now, do you still think the bet should be cancelled? The third prince of King Qin's mansion asked as he looked at Zhou coldly. Plop. As soon as the third marquis finished speaking, Zhou, whose face had become increasingly pale, trembled and fell to the ground. He was paralyzed on the ground and could not get up for a long time. His legs were completely weak from fear. 500,000 high-grade celestial stones. That's 500,000 high-grade celestial stones. When the third prince of the king of Qin's estate expressed his stance, Zhou already knew in his heart, no matter what, the Poison King Sect had to hand over the 500,000 high-grade celestial stones to King Qin's mansion. Otherwise, he would offend the third prince of the Duke of Qin's manor and even the entire Duke of Qin's manor. Although their Poison King Sect's strength was not bad, in front of the colossal Duke Qin's mansion, they were not even worth mentioning. Let alone King Qin of King Qin's mansion. Even the third prince of King Qin's mansion could easily annihilate the Poison King Sect if he made a move. If I don't see the 500,000 prominent celestial stones within a month, I'll personally bring my men to the Poison King Sect to collect them. At that time, things will become complicated. It won't be as simple as just 500,000 prominent celestial stones. After saying these threatening words, the third prince of King Qin's mansion left the VIP area and retreated behind the curtain. Let's go back. After the third prince left, Zhou's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly stood up and led the people from the Poison King Sect away. At this moment, he was no longer in the mood to continue watching the martial competition of the 16 counties. It was not because he could predict the outcome of the martial competition of the 16 counties. Right now, there was nothing more important than him bringing this matter back to the Poison King Sect and reporting it to his elder brother, the sect head of the Poison King Sect. When the people from the Poison King Sect left in a hurry, the people from the Flying Dragon Sect were elated. When we return to the sect, we'll tell our junior brothers and sisters about this. I'm sure they'll be happy. It's rare for our Flying Dragon Sect to make the Poison King Sect suffer like this. A Flying Dragon Sect's disciple said smugly. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to revered Elder Tianling. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have been able to hold our heads high in front of the people from the Poison King Sect. However, I didn't expect revered Elder Tianling to be Duan Lingtian, the monstrous genius from the Nine Spectres County who has become famous in King Qin's mansion in recent months. He's not even 100 years old, but his strength is comparable to a great overarching golden celestial. Moreover, he's also an outstanding primitive celestial alchemist. Revered Elder Tianling is too monstrous, right? If you didn't mention this, I would have forgotten that revered Elder Tianling is a primitive celestial alchemist. A primitive celestial alchemist who's not even 100 years old. Revered Elder Tianling is a monster among monsters. When the Flying Dragon Sect's disciples looked at Duan Lingtian who was hovering in the air above the combat ring, their eyes were filled with admiration. In the air above the combat ring. Duan Lingtian. After staring at Duan Lingtian for a long time, Chu Yen, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke up. He looked at Duan Lingtian and said in a deep voice, "Although I've heard that you're very strong and I can't compare to you, I still want to fight you. If you can defeat me, you'll be the champion of the martial competition of the 16 counties. I hope you live up to your reputation." When Chu Yen reached the end of his sentence, his eyes flashed with battle intent. The celestial origin energy that he had accumulated in his body also burst out of his body. It formed a clear airflow around his body, emitting a terrifying aura. "Make your move," Duan Lingtian said indifferently. Even when Duan Lingtian asked Chu Yen to make his move, there was no trace of celestial origin energy on his body at all. It was as though he did not bother to circulate his celestial origin energy in advance to meet Chu Yan's powerful attack. Upon seeing this, Chu Yen immediately felt that he had suffered a great humiliation. He flew into a rage and charged toward Duan Lingtian like a bolt of lightning. Moreover, he took out his mediocre celestial weapon as soon as he made his move. He did not hold back at all. Although he had only heard of Duan Lingtian's strength, he had never seen Duan Lingtian fight with his own eyes. However, as the saying went, a man with a great reputation lives up to his name. Coupled with Duan Lingtian's casual attitude, Chu Yen realized that Duan Lingtian was indeed as powerful as a great overarching golden celestial. For this reason, Chu Yen did not dare to hold back when he made the first move against Duan Lingtian. This was because he knew that if he still had any strength left, he might not be able to use it in the future. Boom! Rumble! Chu Yen, who charged towards Duan Lingtian with all his might, was like a primeval beast. Everywhere he passed, the air in the sky would violently shake, and a series of explosions would sound out one after another, emitting a deafening sound that was like thunder. Boom, 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 boom. When Chu Yen appeared in front of Duan Lingtian, he unleashed a powerful attack that was as vast as the sea and as powerful as thunder toward Duan Lingtian. Just as he was about to land his attack on Duan Lingtian, he discovered that Duan Lingtian's celestial origin energy was not present. Duan Lingtian's body did not emit any celestial origin energy at all. Moreover, Duan Lingtian was still standing on the same spot. His expression was as calm as before. Instantly, he felt like he was being humiliated. "Since you're seeking death, don't blame me for this." Chu Yen glared at Duan Lingtian as though he had transformed into an angry King Kong. Boom! Rumble! His attack erupted a step further and transformed into a thundercloud that seemed to be suffused with a myriad of thunderbolts that enveloped Duan Lingtian's head and swept him into it. In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian was completely shrouded by the thundercloud. What's Duan Lingtian doing? Is he planning to take Chu Yan's attack head-on? Although this is only Chu Yan's first attack, based on the battle between him and Yang Jin earlier, it's definitely his strongest attack. Duan Lingtian seems a little too careless in the face of Chu Yan's attack, right? Even an ordinary violet sun golden celestial wouldn't dare to underestimate Chu Yan's attack, right? Chapter 2696. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the thundercloud that engulfed Duan Lingtian seemed to be pushed apart by something as soon as it engulfed Duan Lingtian. Bang! Following that, an earth-shattering explosion rang in the air. It was so loud that it was earth-shattering. Bush, 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 bush. In the next moment, the crisp sound of a sword whistling resounded in everyone's ears. After the thundercloud exploded, a dazzling white light spread out. It was sword chi. At first glance, there were tens of thousands of sword chi. As the tens of thousands of sword chi surged out, a figure could be vaguely seen within the sword chi. The power is not bad. Unfortunately, this level of attack can't hurt me. Duan Lingtian stood in the middle of the tens of thousands of sword chi. He was completely unharmed. Even his purple robe was not damaged at all. It was obvious that Chu Yan's attack did not hurt Duan Lingtian at all. Swoosh! Horror dawned on Chu Yan's face when he saw Duan Lingtian was unharmed. He looked at Duan Lingtian as though he had just seen a ghost. How's this possible? My attack earlier. It's impossible for someone below the level of a great overarching golden celestial to withstand it so easily. Don't tell me he has already broken through and become a great overarching golden celestial? When this last thought appeared in his mind, Chu Yan's heart trembled violently, and his pair of pupils also fiercely shrank. How powerful! In the spectating area where the people from the Soaring Wind County were seated, Chu Yan's biological sister, stared at Duan Ling Tian with a bright gleam in her eyes when she saw her brother did not hurt Duan Ling Tian at all. Based on the power of my brother's attack earlier, it should be difficult for someone below the level of a great overarching golden celestial to withstand it. It seems like he has broken through and become a great overarching golden celestial. Chu Yu looked at Duan Lington, the light in the depths of her eyes becoming increasingly resplendent. They were like two stars in the night sky, beautiful and dazzling. His strength has actually increased again. Pang Bing, the inner mansion elder of the county governor's estate of Nine Spectres County, narrowed his eyes in shock when he saw Duan Ling Tian standing amidst the thousands of sword rays like the king of the sword Dao. Duan Linggan has become a great overarching golden celestial? The other inner mansion elder, Zheng Qiu's eyes lit up and a bright smile appeared on his face. He was sincerely happy for Duan Ling Tian. Ah, amazing! Tian Jiyu, the county governor of Nine Spectres County, smiled widely. At the same time, he was shocked by Duan Lingtian's improvement. I didn't expect Duan Lingtian to improve so much in less than a year. Of course, Tian Jiyu was happy because King Qin's mansion would reward Nine Spectres County after Duan Lingtian won the martial competition of the 16 counties. 3 mediocre celestial pills, the great overarching pills. As for how strong Duan Lingtian's strength was, he did not care at all. He knew that with Duan Lingtian's innate talent, it was impossible for him to stay in the Nine Spectres County. Even King Qin's mansion might not be able to accommodate him. He knew clearly in his heart, after today, Duan Lingtian would definitely be able to use the King Qin's mansion as a stepping stone to enter the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. A great overarching golden celestial who's not even 100 years old. In the history of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom, there was only one such genius more than 100,000 years ago, right? That genius seemed to have left the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom and entered a powerful sect that was superior to a high-rank celestial kingdom. Tian Jiyu thought to himself. How powerful! Duan Lingtian is so strong. I'm afraid he has already broken through and become a great overarching golden celestial, right? He's bullying us by participating in the martial competition of the 16 counties. You're right. However, he's qualified to participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. I didn't expect such a freak to appear in King Qin's mansion. Such a monstrous genius has never appeared in King Qin's mansion. Even in the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom, there was only one such genius a few 100,000 years ago. In the surroundings of the combat arena, no matter if it was the VIP spectating area or the other spectating areas, they were filled with similar discussions. Behind the curtain of the VIP seats. It's true that Duan Lingtian possesses strength comparable to a great overarching golden celestial. The third prince sighed. King Qin nodded. Great overarching golden celestial? However, Qin Yu did not comment when he heard the third prince's words. A year ago, he knew Duan Lingtian possessed the strength to kill a great overarching golden celestial. He had even witnessed Duan Lingtian imprisoning Zhou Tong, a great overarching golden celestial, and sending him to the city governor of Bloody Spectre City so that the city governor of Bloody Spectre City could kill him. However, at that time, Duan Lingtian's sword ray was a 7-colored sword ray. I remember that when Duan Lingtian's sword ray wasn't a 7-colored sword ray, he wasn't a match for Zhou Tong. However, when his sword ray turned 7-colored, he was able to suppress Zhou Tong. Although Qin Yu was unaware that Duan Lingtian possessed the Devata artifact, the 7 orifices exquisite sword, since he had seen Duan Lingtian fight before, he knew Duan Lingtian had the ability to transform his sword ray into a 7-colored sword ray. However, today, Duan Lingtian did not use the ability to turn his sword ray into 7-colored. Today, Duan Lingtian displayed strength comparable to a great overarching golden celestial without using the seven-colored sword ray. If he had used the seven-colored sword ray, his strength would have been even stronger. Qin Yu could not help but inwardly gasp when he thought of this. He still remembered. A year ago, if Duan Lingtian did not use the seven-colored sword ray, his strength would not have been comparable to a great overarching golden celestial. However, today, even if Duan Lingtian did not use the seven-colored sword ray, his strength was comparable to a great overarching golden celestial. In just a year, Duan Lingtian's strength has become so much stronger. Qin Yu thought to himself. In the air above the combat arena. Bush, 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 bush. Duan Lingtian, who had once again become the center of attention, was surrounded by tens of thousands of sword rays. It made him look as though he had transformed into the ruler of the world of swords. Even in the void around his body, due to the tens of thousands of sword rays, there was a clearly visible layer of airflow. You should also receive a move from me. All of a sudden, Duan Lingtian, who had been looking at Chu Yen calmly since the beginning, spoke. His voice was calm as though it did not contain any emotion. He did not deliberately raise his voice, but it still clearly spread around the combat arena, causing the hearts of the people present to tremble. Duan Lingtian is going to make a move. The eyes of the group of people around the combat arena lit up one after another. They were like hunters who had seen their prey. Earlier, Duan Lingtian easily neutralized Chu Yan's full force attack. This allowed them to realize that Duan Lingtian's strength was comparable to a great overarching golden celestial. It was even to the extent that Duan Lingtian's cultivation had most likely broken through to the great overarching golden celestial stage. However, they had never seen Duan Lingtian take the initiative to make a move with their own eyes. Now, when they heard Duan Lingtian was going to make a move, they instantly stared at Duan Lingtian without blinking. It was as if they were deeply afraid of missing the slightest detail. When he heard Duan Lingtian's words, Chu Yan's expression instantly changed. He wanted to admit defeat at the first possible moment. What a joke! The strength Duan Lingtian displayed earlier was already far from something he could compare to. At this moment, if he allowed Duan Lingtian to make a move, would he not be looking for trouble? However, just as Chu Yan was about to admit defeat, a terrifying aura surged toward him, causing his qi and blood to surge violently. He was unable to complete his sentence. Bush, 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 bush. Accompanying the terrifying aura was the sword formation that Duan Lingtian had formed with just a lift of his hand. In the beginning, there were more than 10 sword formations before they merged into one. It was so dazzling that it seemed as though it could illuminate all the darkness in the world. Boom, boom, boom. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the sword formation controlled by Duan Lingtian transformed into a gigantic sword that was more than 100 meters long. It shot through the air and slammed down on Chu Yan. That's right, it was slamming down. Duan Lingtian used the body of the enormous sword to slap it down towards Chu Yan, and didn't use the blade of the sword to point at Chu Yan. This was because he did not intend to kill Chu Yan. Killing was prohibited in the martial competition of the 16 counties. Of course, even if killing was not prohibited, he did not intend to kill Chu Yan. After all, he had no enmity with Chu Yan. Although Chu Yan had attacked him with all his might, he did not reveal any killing intent. Obviously, he did not intend to kill him. Boom, boom, boom. The earth-shattering rumbles continued. The gigantic sword that was descending from the sky caused a clear air current to appear in the void. It was as though the water in the sea had been split into two. On the gigantic sword, there was a thick sword essence that seemed to be able to crush everything. Bang! The gigantic sword enveloped Chu Yan. Its speed was so fast that Chu Yan could not dodge it at all. He could only take it head-on. However, no matter how hard he tried, before the giant sword could even touch him, all of his attacks were instantly disintegrated and shattered when the sword aura on the giant sword touched him. As for him, he was ruthlessly sent flying by the slap. Chu Yan, who was sent flying, spat out a large mouthful of blood. After flying for a distance like an arrow, he barely managed to stabilize himself. Thank you for your mercy. Although Chu Yen managed to stabilize himself in the air, his face was as pale as a sheet of white paper. It was just like when he had seized the opportunity to defeat Yang Jin in one fell swoop during his battle with Yang Jin. Chapter 2697. When Chu Yen was blasted flying by the sword force, Duan Ling Tian withdrew all of his attacks with just a thought. If he had not retracted his attack, Chu Yen would have lost his life. Thank you. Duan Ling Tian nodded at Chu Yen. Brother, are you all right? A melodious voice rang out. It was Chu Yu who had leapt into the air from the side of the spectator stand. In the blink of an eye, she arrived beside Chu Yen and supported him. I'm fine. Chu Yen shook his head, but there was a hint of doting and helplessness in the depths of his eyes. When his sister came over and communicated with him through voice transmission, she did not ask about his injuries. Instead, she asked him to introduce her to Duan Ling Tian. This made him feel that a grown girl could not be kept at home. However, out of his doting love for his sister and his fondness for Duan Ling Tian, he immediately looked at Duan Ling Tian and introduced Chu Yu to him. Duan Lingen, this is my sister, Chu Yu. Miss Chu Yu. Duan Ling Tian nodded at Chu Yu out of courtesy. Hello, elder brother Duan. Chu Yu was a little restrained in front of Duan Ling Tian. She, who usually did not care about anything, had a rare blush on her cheeks. Chu Yen, who was standing beside her, was stunned by this scene. Chu Yen had never thought that his sister, who was like a man, would have such a feminine side to her. It's true that a woman dresses up for the man she loves. Chu Yen sighed in his heart. Now, is there anyone else who wants to challenge Duan Ling Tian? Duan Ling Tian could not help but avert his gaze when the host of the martial competition of the 16 counties said, "What's the matter with Chu Yu?" Duan Ling Tian could not help but look away when he heard the host's voice. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian naturally looked at him. According to the rules of the martial competition of the 16 counties, Duan Ling Tian is ranked first for the time being. Other than Chu Yen, who is ranked second for the time being, anyone who is ranked 3rd to 10th can challenge Duan Ling Tian. The host continued. When the host finished speaking, many people around the arena could not help but roll their eyes. Are you kidding me? Duan Ling Tian has completely crushed Chu Yan's strength. No matter who challenges Duan Ling Tian, they're just looking for trouble. That's right. Those 8 people were all defeated by Chu Yen. Now that Chu Yen has been defeated by Duan Ling Tian, if they challenge Duan Ling Tian, they're just looking for trouble. Actually, the host must know that those 8 people won't challenge Duan Ling Tian. He's just going through the motions. After all, he can't just let Duan Ling Tian be ranked first for the martial competition of the 16 counties without asking for the opinions of the others, right? You're right. Among the crowd around the arena, there were quite a few who were observant. Just as these discerning people had said, as soon as the host finished speaking, none of the other 8 people issued a challenge to Duan Ling Tian. Since no one challenges Duan Ling Tian, the final ranking of the martial competition of the 16 counties is set. Seeing that the other 8 people did not make a move, the host of the martial competition of the 16 counties said. The final ranking of the martial competition of the 16 counties was set. First, Duan Ling Tian from 9 Spectres County. Second, Chu Yen from Soaring Wind County. Third, Yang Jin from Fair Mountain County. Fourth, Zhong Jueming from Taiping County. Fifth, Ren Fei from Red Cloud County. Sixth, Zhang Jianhong from Plum Blossom County. Seventh, Chu Yu from Soaring Wind County. Eighth, Mo Chiu from Chioli County. Ninth, Tong Yuan from Horse Tooth County. 10th, Yen Shihu from Tongxing County. The martial competition of the 16 counties came to an end. In the spectator area where the people from Fair Mountain County were seated, Wang Qiling, the county governor of Fair Mountain County, did not dare to say anything. However, he looked at the gray-robed woman in confusion. He did not understand why she had not made a move yet. Was her target not Duan Ling Tian? This old woman. Could it be that she can't bring herself to do it because Duan Ling Tian is too handsome? Wang Qiling could not help but think to himself. Just as I thought. The first place of the martial competition of the 16 counties will ultimately go to Duan Lingtian from 9 Spectres County. Duan Lingtian appeared just in time. If he had appeared an hour later, he wouldn't have been able to win the martial competition of the 16 counties. It's worth it to be able to see a monstrous genius like Duan Lingtian in action. I'm sure he'll be able to go far in the future. Of course. As long as he doesn't die prematurely, it won't be difficult for him to leave the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. With his innate talent, if he leaves the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom smoothly, he'll definitely surpass those in high-rank Celestial Kingdoms. At the very least, he'll be able to become a Celestial Duke. A Celestial Duke. That's an existence that surpasses an overarching Heavenly Supreme Celestial. It's said that even high-rank celestial kingdoms don't necessarily have a celestial duke. Although the martial competition of the 16 counties had come to an end, most of the people present had no intention of leaving. They continued to sit in the spectator seats, whispering and discussing. The topic was completely centered around Duan Lingtian. Many people were curious about how far Duan Lingtian could go in the future and whether he could become a celestial duke. For them, the immortal monarch was already an invincible existence, an existence that only appeared in legends. At the very least, it had been more than 100 years since a celestial duke had made an appearance in King Qin's mansion. Looks like that old woman didn't come. In the sky above the combat arena, Duan Lingtian surveyed the surroundings and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Duan Lingtian. Tian Jiyu, the county governor of 9 Spectres County, greeted Duan Lingtian, and Duan Lingtian was about to join the group of people from 9 Spectres County. An old, hoarse, and cold voice suddenly rang out. "You're Duan Lingtian from the Black Dragon Army in Bloody Spectre City under 9 Spectres County?" Although this voice was not loud, it seemed to contain some kind of magical power. As soon as it appeared, it suppressed all the noise in the surroundings, causing the people who were originally talking with confidence to shut their mouths and began to look around. Who's talking? In the next moment, under everyone's watchful eyes, a gray figure slowly rose into the air from the spectator seats where the people from Fair Mountain County were seated. What's he trying to do? Apart from Wang Lingqi, the county governor of Fair Mountain County, who was looking at Duan Lingtian with a gloating expression on his face, the people from Fair Mountain County were stunned. The figure shrouded in a gray robe suddenly shed her gray robe, just like how Duan Lingtian had shed his black robe, revealing her true appearance. She was an old woman in her 70s who was dressed in a plain long robe. The old woman rose into the air and walked toward Duan Lingtian. "She's the old woman city governor Lu mentioned? She's definitely stronger than a great overarching golden celestial. In fact, I have a feeling she's as strong as King Qin from King Qin's mansion." As soon as the old woman spoke, Duan Lingtian's expression changed drastically. He wanted to flee, but he discovered a powerful invisible energy had locked onto him. Although the invisible energy was dispersed, it gave Duan Lingtian a feeling of invincibility. With his current strength, only an overarching heavenly supreme celestial or stronger would be able to give him such a feeling. In fact, even an ordinary overarching heavenly supreme celestial would not be able to give him such a feeling. "It's you?" Tian Jiyu, the county governor of 9 Spectres County, exclaimed in shock when he saw the old woman who had shed her gray robe and revealed her true appearance. He was initially smiling as he waited for Duan Lingtian to arrive. He was no stranger to the old woman. She was the one who had come to look for him in the county governor's estate a year ago. At that time, the old woman had injured him with just her aura. The old woman's strength was comparable to an overarching heavenly supreme celestial. She was at least a first-rate overarching heavenly supreme celestial. She's here? Moreover, she's been hiding beside Wang Qiling, the county governor of Fair Mountain County. Tian Jiyu did not expect the old woman to be here. This old woman had actually come, and she had come early in the morning. She had used a gray robe to cover her face, and she was following beside Wang Qiling, the governor of Pingshan Commandery. "HM?" The old woman who was walking toward Duan Lingtian suddenly stopped in her tracks when she heard Tian Jiyu's words. She tilted her head slightly, and a bright light flashed through her turbid eyes. Her gaze also fell on Tianjiu immediately, and she said faintly, "I almost forgot about you, I remember. When I went to look for you in the county governor's mansion in Nine Specters County, you told me that Duan Lingtian would not participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties, right?" As she spoke, the old woman's eyes narrowed as a cold light flashed through them. Senior, hearing the old woman's words and feeling the old woman's killing intent directed at him, Tianjiu was so scared that his expression changed greatly. He said with a terrified expression, "Senior, you misunderstood. I really didn't know that Duan Lingtian would come. I really didn't know that he would come." Although he was in King Qin's mansion and knew King Qin was present, Tianjiu did not feel safe at all. King Qin was only an ordinary overarching heavenly supreme celestial. Based on the strength of the old woman, it was highly likely that she was not an ordinary overarching heavenly supreme celestial. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if this old woman's strength was on par with King Qin, it would be easy for her to kill him. Even the Duke of Qin might not stop her. Chapter 2698. Is that so? The old woman sneered when she heard Tianjiu's words. Why do I remember that you purposely bought an hour for Duan Lingtian when he didn't show up? If you didn't know he was coming, would you have bought time for him? Do you think I'm a fool? The old woman's voice turned colder and colder as she spoke. It felt as though winter had arrived. Tianjiu, who was targeted, bore the brunt of it. He felt as though he had fallen into an ice cellar. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Senior, Tianjiu wanted to say something. Harumph. With a cold harumph, a cold light flashed through the old woman's eyes, but she didn't do anything. In the next moment, spurt. Tianjiu, who was as pale as a sheet of paper, suddenly trembled. A bloody hole appeared between his brows, and his vitality was drained away in just a blink of an eye. Bang. The next moment, Tianjiu's body fell heavily to the ground. The sound was unusually loud in the silent environment. Tianjiu, the county governor of Nine Specters County, was dead. Gasp, 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 gasp. Almost at the same time when they saw Tianjiu fall to the ground and die, the group of people present could not help but gasp one after another. Nobody thought the county governor of Nine Specters County under King Qin's mansion would be killed in such a manner. Moreover, he was killed right in front of King Qin's mansion. Lord County Governor! Lord County Governor! When the people from Nine Specters County regained their senses, they were in a mess. The inner mansion elders, Pang Bing and Zheng Qiu, glanced at Tianjiu who was on the ground, then glanced at the old woman who stood in the sky above the combat ring before turning around once again and walking towards Duan Lingtian, and their expressions were gloomy to the point water seemed to drip from them. Zheng Qiu. Even King Qin wouldn't be able to kill the county governor in such a manner, right? Pang Bing asked through voice transmission. This old woman should be stronger than King Qin. Zheng Qiu replied through voice transmission. Do you remember? When His Excellency the Duke of Qin first appeared, this old woman was wearing a gray robe and standing beside Wang Qiling, the prefectural governor of Fair Mountain Commandery. She didn't even greet His Excellency the Duke of Qin. Zheng Qiu continued to speak. Now that you mention it, I remember. At that time, the Duke of Qin and this old woman were at daggers drawn, but the Fair Mountain County Governor, Wang Qiling, said that this old woman was deaf and mute, so the Duke of Qin did not continue to argue with this old woman. Pang Bing. Deaf and mute? Do you think Wang Qiling's county governor would dare to deceive King Qin's the county? In my opinion, when he said the old woman was deaf and mute, it was most likely His Excellency Duke of Qin who instructed him to do so. Zheng Qiu. King Qin, Pang Bing was puzzled. Why would King Qin do this? The Duke of Qin did this either because he knew that the old woman was stronger than him, or because he knew that the old woman had a powerful background and he didn't dare to provoke her. I'm more inclined towards the former. The Duke of Qin knew that the old woman was stronger than him, so he asked the Fair Mountain Commandery chief, Wang Qiling, to cooperate with him and give him a way out. After all, as the master of King Qin's mansion, He couldn't possibly admit defeat in front of the old woman in front of so many people. Zheng Qiu's words made it seem as though he had personally witnessed the battle between King Qin and the old woman. If that's the case, it makes sense. King Qin hasn't made a move even though the old woman has killed the county governor. Pang Bing sighed as he looked at the curtain behind the VIP seats. Behind the curtain, Qin Yu's expression darkened when he saw the old woman walking toward Duan Lingtun. At this moment, he realized the old woman was a celestial being. The celestial duke from the compassionate celestial traveler sect had indeed come for his friend, Duan Lingtian. Moreover, based on his uncle's words, the old woman had come to kill Duan Lingtian. Every step the old woman took was akin to stepping on his heart. He could not help but shudder. Duan Lingtian was his only friend, and he'd even saved his life. Now, Duan Lingtian's life was in danger, yet he could only watch and do nothing. This caused him to feel extremely uncomfortable. "Uncle, please save Duan Lingning," Qin Yu said as he looked at King Qin. As soon as Qin Yu finished speaking, the third prince smiled wryly and said, "That old woman is a celestial duke. You saw how she killed the county governor of 9 Spectres County earlier. Even if your first uncle's cultivation base were to break through 2 levels, he might not be able to use such a technique. The strength of a celestial duke is beyond your imagination." A hint of helplessness could be heard in the third prince's voice when he spoke. Although he was a peak great overarching golden celestial who was unrivaled by anyone below the overarching heavenly supreme celestial, he was as insignificant as an ant in front of a celestial duke. Moreover, a celestial duke could kill him with just a thought, just like how she had killed the county governor of 9 Spectres County. "It's not that I don't want to help him. I can't." King Qin sighed. The celestial duke from the compassionate celestial traveler sect had killed his subordinate, the county governor of 9 Spectres County, in front of so many people. However, even though he had lost all his face, he could not feel any anger in his heart. After all, he knew there was nothing he could do no matter how angry he was. Putting aside the fact that he was no match for the old woman's background alone was enough to intimidate him. The compassionate celestial traveler sect. The compassionate celestial traveler sect was much more powerful than a high-rank celestial kingdom. While King Qin was sighing, Qin Yu's expression changed a few times. In the end, he flew out of the curtain and appeared in front of Duan Lingtian in just a blink of an eye. He shielded Duan Lingtian behind him. Although Duan Lingtian's body was surrounded by the old woman's powerful and invisible energy, it was only natural that the old woman was protecting him. The invisible energy was directed at Duan Lingtian. It was directed at Duan Lingtian. For this reason, Qin Yu did not encounter any obstruction from the old woman's invisible energy when he appeared in front of Duan Lingtian. He successfully arrived in front of Duan Lingtian. "Qin Yu?" Duan Lingtian was greatly surprised by Qin Yu's appearance. However, despite his surprise, Duan Lingtian hurriedly transmitted his voice to Qin Yu. He smiled bitterly and said, "Qin Yu, hurry up and go back." "Don't worry, I'll be fine." Although Duan Lingtian knew Qin Yu's appearance could not resolve the crisis he was facing, he still felt a sense of warmth in his heart. He could imagine, before Qin Yu appeared, he must have begged his uncle, King Qin of King Qin's mansion. Now that Qin Yu had appeared alone, it meant that King Qin did not agree to help him. Or rather, King Qin knew he was no match for the old woman, so there was nothing he could do to help Qin Yu. Although Duan Lingtian said he would be fine, Qin Yu did not believe him. At this point, how could Qin Yu believe Duan Lingtian's words? After appearing in front of Duan Lingtian, Qin Yu saw the killing intent in the old woman's eyes when she looked at Duan Lingtian. It was a killing intent that could not wait to tear Duan Lingtian into pieces and grind his bones to dust. Qin Yu was certain. The old woman might not kill Duan Lingtian as quickly as she killed the county chief of 9 Spectres County. "Senior, may I know how Duan Lingtian has offended you? If you're willing to let him go, I can promise you anything I can do. Even if you want my life in exchange for his, I'm willing to do it." Qin Yu's heart trembled slightly when he saw the old woman. After all, Duan Lingtian was a true celestial duke. Currently, he was only an ordinary golden celestial who had not even become a great overarching golden celestial. Even great overarching golden celestials and celestial dukes were separated by overarching heavenly supreme celestials. In other words, Qin Yu was no different from an ant in front of the old woman. In fact, the old woman could easily kill him with a puff of her celestial origin energy. Earlier, even the county chief of Nine Spectres County, a profound great overarching golden celestial, had been killed by the old woman. Based on this, one could easily imagine how powerful the old woman was. As soon as Qin Yu appeared in front of Duan Lingtian, the old woman's eyes flashed coldly. She was prepared to kill Qin Yu. However, when she heard Qin Yu's words, she temporarily dismissed the idea of killing him. She asked in disbelief, "You're willing to exchange your life for his?" In the Devata realms where the strong were revered and the weak were prey to the strong, very few people would be willing to sacrifice their own lives for others. After all, everyone was selfish. "Senior, as long as you promise not to kill him after killing me, I'm willing to give up my life," Qin Yu said solemnly with a serious face. "Since you want to exchange your life for his, I'll fulfill your wish." Right after Qin Yu's words left his mouth, the old woman's gaze suddenly turned cold. Immediately after that, a powerful aura swept out from her body and enveloped Qin Yu. It was moving toward him menacingly. As a celestial duke, the old woman's aura was strong enough to injure ordinary great overarching golden celestials. If she wanted to, she could kill ordinary golden celestials with just her aura alone. "Senior, please have mercy on me. Please have mercy on me." Almost at the instant when the old woman's aura swept out and enveloped Qin Yu, two hurried voices sounded in succession from behind the curtain of the VIP viewing seats. "Bush, bush." Following that, two figures flew out from behind the curtain. They were none other than the master of King Qin's mansion, King Qin, and the third prince. Qin Wang and the third prince, one after the other, soar into the air at an extremely fast speed, wanting to rescue Qin Yu. Qin Yu's father was their fourth brother. On the other hand, their fourth brother had saved their lives more than once in the past. Chapter 2699. Bush. King Qin and the third prince soar into the air one after another. They break through the air and rush toward where Qin Yu is, wanting to save him. "Umph." Accompanied by a cold snort, the old woman lifted her hand. A vast and boundless energy appeared out of nowhere and swept out, causing the empty space to tremble. The airflow in the air also spread out like ripples, clearly appearing in front of everyone's eyes around the battle arena. It was as though a rock had been thrown into a calm lake, causing ripples to appear. After all, this was a Devata realm. The space here was much more stable than the space in the mundane realms. In the Devata realms, not everyone would be able to create such a huge commotion when they made a move. Even an ordinary overarching heavenly supreme celestial might not be able to create such a huge commotion. Bang, bang. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Qin Wang and the third prince, who were charging at Qin Yu at an extremely fast speed, were sent flying backwards at an even faster speed. They both spat out a large mouthful of blood at the same time. The originally powerful auras on their bodies also withered in an instant. This, King Qin and the third prince, they couldn't even withstand a single move from her? This is too terrifying. The people in the surroundings of the battle arena widened their eyes in shock. Apart from the people from the 16 counties under King Qin's mansion, the group of people in the VIP seats, including Fei Longjian's group, were also people from the regions under King Qin's mansion's jurisdiction. However, they belonged to different forces and did not have a subordinate relationship with King Qin's mansion. In their opinion, King Qin was the only overarching heavenly supreme celestial in King Qin's mansion. He was widely acknowledged as the strongest person in King Qin's mansion. However, at this moment, King Qin, who was like a legend to them, could not even withstand a single move from an old woman who seemed to be in her 70s. Who exactly was this old woman? Qin Yu. At this moment, Duan Lingtian wanted to save Qin Yu as well. However, his reaction was still slower than King Qin and the third prince. "Duan Lingtian, if there's an afterlife, I hope we can still be friends." Qin Yu grinned. Immediately after, he closed his eyes and stepped into the air. He faced the old woman's powerful aura head-on. He had an expression of facing death with equanimity. At the same time, Qin Yu also felt a bit relieved. He had finally repaid his debt to the Duan Lingtian. Qin Yu. Duan Lingtian's expression changed greatly. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. At the same time, he was somewhat regretful. Why did he have to be so stubborn? Couldn't he have just left? If he had left earlier, none of this would have happened. When Duan Lingtian's expression changed greatly and his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, he clearly sensed that the powerful aura that originated from the old woman's slap on Qin Yu's body dissipated the moment it enveloped Qin Yu's body. Bang! However, even though the old woman's aura had dispersed by about 70 to 80%, the remaining aura still hit Qin Yu's body and knocked him back a dozen steps. It also caused him to continuously spit out several mouthfuls of blood. His complexion became as pale as paper in an instant. Fortunately, his life was not in danger. Qin Yu, are you all right? Duan Lingtian supported Qin Yu and asked with concern. I'm fine. Qin Yu shook his head and looked at the old woman with a puzzled expression. He did not know what the old woman meant. Why did she stop at the last moment and not kill him? You're really willing to risk your life for him. The old woman looked at Qin Yu and sneered. However, even though she was sneering, there was a hint of admiration in the depths of her eyes. The reason for this was that when she was young, there was a time when she was in danger. It was also her good friend who risked her life to save her. Because of that experience, she respected people like Qin Yu who were willing to risk their lives for their friends. Earlier, the reason why she attacked Qin Yu was merely because she wanted to test whether Qin Yu was truly willing to lay down his life for his friend. After all, saying it and actually doing it were two completely different concepts. Senior, you're not going back on your words, are you? Qin Yu's expression changed slightly. He was afraid that the old woman would go back on her words and kill Duan Lingtian. At this moment, the injured King Qin and the third prince arrived in front of Qin Yu and protected him behind them. At the same time, they also protected Duan Lingtian behind them. Senior. King Qin looked at the old woman and said, although I don't know how my nephew's friend offended your esteemed sect leader, if it's possible to resolve the enmity between him and your esteemed sect leader, as long as it's within my capabilities, I'm willing to do anything for your esteemed sect leader to resolve the enmity between them. Sect leader? Upon hearing King Qin's words, Duan Lingtian's eyes widened slightly. He thought to himself, this old woman is from a sect? Based on King Qin's words, it seems like she's acting on the orders of her sect leader to kill me? The old woman does not pay any attention to Qin Wang. She looks at Qin Yu and says, if it's only a small grudge between me and your friend, based on the fact that you're willing to sacrifice your life for him, it doesn't matter if I don't kill him. However, I'm here to kill him under the orders of the sect leader of the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. Therefore, he'll definitely die today. Nobody can stop me. The old woman's voice became even colder as she spoke, making people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. The Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. Duan Lingtian's eyes widened in shock. The Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. Is it Murongbing's sect? This old woman must be from Murongbing's sect, right? The Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. This old woman is from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect? When Duan Lingtian learned the old woman was from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect, many people in the surroundings were shocked by the old woman's origin. Most of them knew about the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. The Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect is a powerful sect that far surpasses high-rank celestial kingdoms. There are countless powerhouses in the sect, and many of them are celestial dukes. A powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect came to the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom and King Qin's mansion just to kill Duan Lingtian. Who's Duan Lingtian? While the crowd around the combat ring was discussing animatedly, numerous gazes that were filled with doubt landed on Duan Lingtian again. All of them found it a little unbelievable. It seems like Duan Lingtian's true identity isn't simple. I was wondering why someone like him would suddenly appear in King Qin's mansion. That's right. After all, in King Qin's mansion, there's never been anyone below the age of 100 whose strength is comparable to a great overarching golden celestial. In my opinion, Duan Lingtian is most likely from a sect that's hostile to the compassionate celestial traveler sect. He ended up in King Qin's mansion after being hunted down by the powerhouses from the compassionate celestial traveler sect. That's most likely the case. One had to admit that the people in the surroundings had wild imaginations. However, everything that they said was reasonable and well-founded. For this reason, more and more people felt that this was the truth. Duan Lingtian was originally a disciple from a sect that was hostile to the compassionate celestial traveler sect. He ended up in King Qin's mansion after being hunted down by the powerhouses from the compassionate celestial traveler sect. In this way, it was easy to explain Duan Lingtian's monstrous natural talent. After all, there was no lack of great overarching golden celestials who were younger than 100 years old in the compassionate celestial traveler sect. A sect that was targeted by the compassionate celestial traveler sect must be on the same level as the compassionate celestial traveler sect. It was not strange for such a sect to have a great overarching golden celestial who was younger than 100 years old. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to ask the old woman if Murong Bing was from the compassionate celestial traveler sect, Senior, when Qin Yu sensed the old woman's determination to kill Duan Lingtian, he felt a wave of helplessness in his heart. At the same time, he made a final effort. Is there any misunderstanding between your sect leader and my friend? As far as I know, my friend isn't a native of the spirit overarching heaven. He's an ascender who has ascended to the spirit overarching heaven less than 5 years ago. Logically speaking, it's impossible for him to have offended your sect leader, right? Qin Yu could not figure out how Duan Lingtian, who had ascended to the spirit overarching heaven less than 5 years ago, could have offended the sect leader of the compassionate celestial traveler sect. After all, the gap between the two of them was too wide. It was almost impossible for them to cross paths. Ascended to the spirit overarching heaven less than 5 years ago? Following Qin Yu's words, not only did the old woman's pupils slightly shrink, she also displayed an expression of shock and disbelief. Even the Duke of Qin and the third prince were stunned. What? Duan Lingtian is an ascender? Moreover, he ascended to the spirit overarching heaven less than 5 years ago? How's this possible? Based on Duan Lingtian's aura, we can confirm he's less than 100 years old. If he's an ascender, it means he's only a Crimson Moon Heavenly Celestial when he ascended to the Devata realm. How could a Crimson Moon Heavenly Celestial possess strength comparable to a great overarching Golden Celestial in just 5 years? What a joke! Even if a Crimson Moon Heavenly Celestial has mastered heaven-grade celestial methods, divine abilities, cultivated heaven-grade cultivation methods, and had the best cultivation resources and environment in King Qin's mansion, it's impossible for him to possess such strength in just 5 years. Qin Yu must be lying. He must be trying to mislead the powerhouse from the compassionate celestial traveler sect into letting Duan Lingtian go. After hearing what Qin Yu said, the people present were all shocked. After a while, they all came to the same conclusion. Qin Yu was lying. It was impossible for Duan Lingtian to have ascended to the spirit overarching heaven less than 5 years ago. Boy! Chapter 2700. Senior, I'm not lying to you. Qin Yu smiled wryly and helplessly when he saw the old woman's cold gaze. It's true that Duan Lingtian has only ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years. I, Qin Yu, can guarantee this with my dignity. Qin Yu's expression was solemn as he spoke. The old woman firmly stared at Qin Yu. She was trying to see if Qin Yu was lacking in confidence from his eyes. However, she discovered that Qin Yu was fearlessly looking back at her without the slightest bit of fear. She could not help but feel puzzled. Could it be that what this Qin Yu said was true? Do you know Murong Bing? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice while the old woman stared at Qin Yu. Her heart was filled with doubt. Murong Bing. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the old woman's eyes widened. She shifted her gaze from Qin Yu to Duan Lingtian at lightning speed. She sneered and said, "It seems like you're aware that Miss Bing is from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. If that's the case, you should be able to understand that you didn't die in vain." As she spoke, the killing intent in the old lady's eyes soared to the extreme. "She's from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect." Duan Ling Tian smiled when he heard the old woman's words. He was certain Murong Bing was from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. This was the answer he had been searching for ever since he had parted ways with Murong Bing. "Does she know that you're here to kill me?" Duan Lingtan asked as he stared at the old woman. "A person who's about to die doesn't need to know too much." The old woman scoffed. Celestial origin energy surged out of her body. Like a ferocious beast, she sent King Qin and the third prince, who were standing in front of Duan Lingtan, flying to the side. Following that, Qin Yu, who was standing next to Duan Lingtian, was sent flying to the side as well. Duan Lingtian. Qin Yu, who had been sent flying to the side, seemed to have realized something. His expression changed drastically. "Looks like she doesn't know." Withdrawing his gaze from the old woman's eyes, the smile on Duan Lingtian's face became even more brilliant. Even when Qin Yu and Qin Wang beside him were blasted far away, he did not show any signs of fear or panic. When the old woman saw the brilliant smile on Duan Lingtian's face, her old face became distorted and hideous. She let out an earth-shattering shout as waves of terrifying celestial origin energy surged out of her body. In an instant, the rolling celestial origin energy enveloped Duan Lingtian like a dark cloud, making him look like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. In the next moment, the rolling dark clouds rapidly shrank. The terrifying power swept towards Duan Lingtian with an oppressive aura. "You shouldn't be so hesitant." At this moment, Duan Lingtian's calm voice resonated in the air. Judging from his tone, he didn't seem to reveal the slightest bit of panic even until now. "When you return to the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect, tell your sect leader that I'll personally bring the betrothal gifts to the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect and marry Murong Bing in a grand manner." Duan Lingtian's voice rang in the air again. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, the old woman frowned as though she had sensed something. Her expression changed drastically. "You have the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman." When the old woman cried out in shock, her celestial origin energy that was rolling like dark clouds began to converge. A loud bang rang in the air as the old woman's voice reverberated in the air. Following that, the celestial origin energy that had been gathering rapidly exploded. In the next moment, an exaggerated mushroom cloud appeared and rose into the sky. "This is bad." "What?" Puff! The instant the mushroom cloud appeared, a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions from the center of the mushroom cloud. The terrifying shockwave swept through the surroundings of the arena in the blink of an eye, killing most of the young experts under the age of 100 from the various prefectures under the Duke of Qin's mansion. Only a few of the remaining young experts survived. Even the elders and revered elders from the 16 counties under King Qin's mansion could barely protect themselves from the shockwave. All of them coughed out mouthfuls of blood and were severely injured. Only the county governors of the 16 counties, who were great overarching golden celestials, were capable of protecting the young powerhouses. However, their strength was limited. They could only protect some of the young powerhouses. Under such circumstances, it was only natural that they would choose to protect the young powerhouses who were more important. For example, in the spectator seats where the people from Soaring Wind County were seated, several elders and sinecures from the county governor's mansion of Soaring Wind County were severely injured. The county governor, Chu Tingxian, was only able to protect his two children, Chu Yen and Chu Yu. The rest of the young experts who participated in the martial competition of the 16 counties were all dead. The situation was similar in the other counties. The elders and revered elders could barely protect themselves while the county governors protected the talented and powerful young powerhouses who came to participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. Apart from Duan Lingtian, the other 9 people who participated in the martial competition of the 16 counties survived. The 9 specters county suffered the most. This was because Tian Jiyu, the county governor of the 9 specters county, had been killed by the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. Therefore, there were no great overarching golden celestials to protect the young powerhouses. Only the inner court elders of the county governor's estate of the 9 Spectres County, Pangbing, Jingqiu, and a few revered elders survived. The people from the 16 counties under King Qin's mansion were in a terrible state. Only the VIP seats were better off. There weren't many people, and only a few were injured. The people in the VIP seats were from the major sects and clans under King Qin's mansion's jurisdiction. These sects and clans were more powerful than the powerhouses from the 16 counties under King Qin's mansion's jurisdiction. Many great overarching golden celestials had come to participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. Therefore, these great overarching golden celestials had protected most of the people. Only a small number of people, due to various reasons, were affected by the aftershocks of the mushroom cloud and suffered some injuries. As for the people from King Qin's mansion, almost all of them were unharmed. Qin Wang and the third prince are protecting Qin Yu effortlessly. The host of the martial competition of the 16 counties was a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven. If he had been among the audience, he would not have felt any pressure. However, because he was close to the mushroom cloud, he still suffered some minor injuries. As for the people from King Qin's mansion behind the VIP seats, they were unharmed. Even the 9 snow-white horses with the cultivation base of violet sun golden celestials were unharmed under the protection of the great overarching golden celestials from King Qin's mansion. Boom, 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 boom. The remaining power of the mushroom cloud in the sky above the battle arena continued to spread in all directions, causing the spectators' seats around the battle arena to completely collapse, turning into ruins. This caused the people in the seats to only be able to step into the air and stand in the empty space. Bush, 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 bush. After a long while, the mushroom cloud above the combat ring finally disappeared. A gust of wind blew past, and the scene returned to its original state. However, apart from the combat ring, all the buildings in the venue were unharmed. Apart from the curtains behind the VIP spectator seats, the rest of the spectator seats had been reduced to a pile of rubble. Bush, 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 bush. Just as the entire place fell silent, everyone turned to look at the plain-clothed figure in the air above the combat ring. The plain-clothed figure was none other than the old woman dressed in a plain-clothed robe. The old woman stood there. She couldn't be considered tall and had nothing to do with being strong. However, as she stood there, the gazes that landed on her body were filled with the fear of surviving a calamity. The powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect is so terrifying. This destructive power, isn't it too terrifying? Moreover, she didn't use it on us. It's the aftershock of her attack on Duan Lingtian. Even a peak overarching heavenly supreme celestial wouldn't have such terrifying strength, right? Is this old woman a celestial duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect? Many people whispered among themselves as they looked at the old woman. Based on their words, most of them felt the old woman was stronger than an overarching heavenly supreme celestial. A celestial duke. There were many celestial dukes in the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. Is he dead? Among the people from the Soaring Wind County, Chu Yu looked at the sky above the combat ring anxiously. He wanted to find the purple-clothed figure, but his efforts were in vain. He should be fine. If he's dead, there would be traces left behind. Didn't you notice there's no blood on the combat ring? Chu Yen, who was standing next to Chu Yu, shook his head. Upon hearing Chu Yu's words, Chu Yu lowered his head and looked at the combat ring. Indeed, there was no blood on the combat ring. Logically speaking, if Duan Lingtian was really killed, then even if his body was directly blasted into powder, there would surely be a mist of blood that fell down and left behind some traces on the combat ring. However, there was none. This meant Duan Lingtian was still alive. Before the old woman unleashed her power, she seemed to have lost her composure and shouted the shadow void escaping talisman. If I'm not mistaken, Duan Lingtian must have used a shadow void escaping talisman at the most critical moment to escape from this place. Chu Tingxian, the county governor of the Soaring Wind County, said in a deep voice. At this moment, The gentle and refined middle-aged scholar's expression was unsightly. Earlier, the other 28 young powerhouses who came with him to participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties were killed by the old woman's power. Duan Linkan. In the sky above the combat arena, Qin Yu, who was protected by Qin Yu and the third prince, had just recovered from his shock and seemed to have suddenly recalled something, causing his face to go pale. Subsequently, he looked left and right as if he'd gone mad, wanting to find traces of Duan Lingtian. Don't worry, he's fine. Chapter 2701. Shadow Void Escaping Talisman? Qin Yu heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Duan Lingtian had escaped. However, he could not help but look at King Qin in confusion. This was the first time he had heard of the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman. The Shadow Escaping Talisman is an immortal talisman that immortal kings expended great effort to inscribe, and its success rate is extremely low. Possessing a single Shadow Escaping Talisman is equivalent to possessing a single chance of survival from an expert below the immortal king realm. As long as the target isn't a celestial king, they can only watch as the target escapes if they can't kill the target before the target uses the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman. King Qin paused for a moment before he looked at the old woman in the distance. Currently, the old woman's face was contorted even more. She looked exceptionally ferocious. His Shadow Void Escaping Talisman. You gave it to him? All of a sudden, the old lady turned around. The moment she turned around, her sharp gaze landed on Qin Wang. It was as though she would not hesitate to kill Qin Wang as long as he responded with a yes. Senior, do you think I have the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman? King Qin smiled bitterly. A hint of helplessness could be seen in his bitter smile. As the master of King Qin's mansion, he was usually high and mighty. He was respected and awe-inspiring. But today, in front of this old woman in front of him, he could not muster up any courage. This was because he could not bring himself to act tough. The old woman was a Duke Celestial. If she wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as lifting her hand. Duan Lingtian isn't dead? It can't be, right? He's still alive even after being swept away by such a terrifying force? How's that possible? At this moment, the people in the surroundings finally realized Duan Lingtian was still alive. Duan Lingtian isn't dead. It seems like he used the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman. Shadow Void Escaping Talisman? Is that the talisman that can only be inscribed by a celestial king? Moreover, even a celestial king has less than a 1% success rate when inscribing it. Once this Shadow Void Escaping Talisman is used, it's said that one can easily escape from existences below the immortal king realm. It's an extremely precious and rare immortal talisman. Generally speaking, this kind of celestial talisman is rare even in high-rank celestial kingdoms. How did Duan Lingtian get it? While everyone was discussing animatedly, they were also shocked that Duan Lingtian actually had the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman in his hands. Moreover, he had used it at the critical moment and successfully escaped. It seems like Duan Lingtian's background isn't as simple as it seems. Not only did he attract the attention of the powerhouses from the compassionate celestial traveler sect, but he also possesses a precious celestial talisman like the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman. He must be an enemy of the compassionate celestial traveler sect. Previously, I wasn't so sure. However, now, I'm certain he's from a force that's hostile to the compassionate celestial traveler sect. Moreover, that force isn't weak. Moreover, Duan Lingtian's identity in that force is definitely not simple. Of course, even in the compassionate celestial traveler sect, I'm afraid there aren't many disciples below the age of 100 who possess a rare and precious celestial talisman like the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman. At this moment, many people were certain that Duan Lingtian's background was not simple. Duan Lingtian's background was not simple. Moreover, he was most likely from an enemy force of the compassionate celestial traveler sect. You said he has only ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years, right? Under the gazes of everyone present, the old woman who stood in the sky above the battle arena looked at Qin Yu with a cold gaze and asked with a cold smile. Senior, I'm not lying to you. Qin Yu smiled wryly. Although he had a wry smile on his face, he was inwardly happy that Duan Lingtian had successfully escaped. He could not help but heave a sigh of relief. A person who has only ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years. Moreover, he's not even 100 years old, yet his strength is comparable to a great overarching golden celestial. Moreover, he possesses the shadow void escaping talisman inscribed by a celestial king. Do you really think I'm a fool? The old woman's voice grew increasingly ice-cold. Her increasingly chilly gaze gave Qin Yu a feeling as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. It caused Qin Yu's complexion to instantly become incomparably pale. Senior, I'm not lying to you. The wry smile on Qin Yu's face grew wider. From beginning to end, the old woman's chilly gaze was fixed on Qin Yu's eyes. She wanted to find clues from Qin Yu's eyes and confirm that what Qin Yu said was false. However, she discovered that Qin Yu was not lying to her. Even though she is pressuring Qin Yu now, Qin Yu still does not have a guilty conscience and does not show any sign of deceiving her. This made her feel slightly vexed. That brat. Could it be that he has only ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years? If that's true, I'm afraid even the compassionate celestial traveler sect can't compare to his background, right? It was not that he did not think it was possible for a freak to possess strength comparable to a great overarching golden celestial who had ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years. However, such freaks were extremely rare even in the Devata realms. Such monstrous geniuses usually obtained the inheritance of a powerful force in a Devata realm when they were still in the mundane realms. Moreover, they were also very outstanding. After all, there were many people in the mundane realms who had obtained the legacies from the top forces in the Devata realms. Even so, they might not be able to possess strength comparable to a great overarching golden celestial within 5 years of ascending to the Devata realms. It was impossible for a bodiless celestial to ascend before the age of 100 since it was impossible for a bodiless celestial to ascend before the age of 100. A bodiless celestial would become a golden celestial after ascending to the Devata realms. On the other hand, a bodiless celestial could only become a heavenly celestial after ascending to the Devata realms. If I find out in the future that you're lying to me, I won't just kill you, I'll tear you to pieces, and I'll burn your bones to ashes. I'll bury the entire King Qin's mansion with you. After coldly casting a glance at Qin Yu and leaving behind those words with an ice-cold tone, the old woman's figure started to turn illusory before everyone's eyes. In the end, she turned into a void and gradually disappeared before everyone's eyes. In the end, she disappeared into thin air. Swoosh, swoosh. Although the old woman had left, her words caused King Qin and the third prince's expressions to change drastically. Swoosh. Even the expression of the powerhouse from King Qin's mansion who presided over the martial competition of the 16 counties changed drastically. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Behind the curtains behind the ruined VIP seats, the expressions of the people from the Duke of Qin's manor changed. All of them, without exception, thought Qin Yu was lying to the old woman. Duan Lingtian had only ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years? How was this possible? I bet Qin Yu didn't expect his cleverness would drag King Qin's mansion into this mess, right? Indeed, he thinks he's clever. He's not even 100 years old and has only ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years. How could such a person become so powerful in just 5 years? Before the powerhouse from the compassionate celestial traveler sect left, she said that once she confirmed that Qin Yu was lying to her, not only would he be in trouble, but King Qin's mansion would be in trouble as well. Qin Yu is the jinx of King Qin's mansion. As soon as he returned to King Qin's mansion and acknowledged his family, he's already a potential threat to King Qin's mansion. Apart from the people from the Flying Dragon sect who remained silent, the people in the VIP seats discussed among themselves. All of them felt that Qin Yu was a burden to King Qin's mansion and that he was a threat to King Qin's mansion. Even the people from King Qin's mansion felt the same way. Qin Wang and the third prince look at Qin Yu. There is nothing but helplessness on their faces. If Qin Yu was their son, they would have slapped him in the face for bringing such a threat to King Qin's mansion. However, Qin Yu was their fourth brother's son. Eldest uncle, third uncle? Now that the powerhouse from the compassionate celestial traveler sect has left, there's no reason for me to lie to you, right? He's really an ascender. Moreover, he's only been in the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years. Qin Yu smiled wryly. He didn't take the old woman's threat to heart because he had a clear conscience. However, he could understand how King Qin and the others felt. Are you telling the truth? The third prince frowned. He did not expect his nephew would still insist that Duan Lingtian had only been in the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years. It was just as his nephew had said. Since the powerhouse from the compassionate celestial traveler sect had left, there was no reason for him to lie to them. King Qin's brows furrowed as well. Eldest uncle, third uncle? It's better for you to deal with the matters here. As for the matters regarding Duan Lingtian, I'll tell all of you in detail after you've dealt with the matters here. Qin Yu said as he looked at his surroundings. With so many people watching and so many ears, he did not plan to expose Duan Lingtian's background here. Initially, he had told the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect that Duan Lingtian had only been in the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years because he was worried the powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect had found the wrong person. After all, he did not think there was any connection between Duan Lingtian and the sect leader of the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. However, when Duan Lingtian mentioned a woman named Murong Bing, Duan Lingtian was certain of one thing even though he did not know what that woman was involved in. The powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect had not found the wrong person. The person she was looking for was Duan Lingtian. At that time, he was unaware that there was no misunderstanding between Duan Lingtian and the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. He was also unaware that Duan Lingtian possessed a shadow void escaping talisman inscribed by a celestial king that allowed him to easily escape from the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. Otherwise, he would not have revealed that Duan Lingtian had only been in the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years. What he said was equivalent to betraying Duan Lingtian to a certain extent. It might bring some hidden dangers to Duan Lingtian and create some obstacles for Duan Lingtian in the future. Chapter 2702. It could be said that Qin Yu was worried. Qin Yu's concern had caused him to panic. Otherwise, he would not have exposed the fact that Duan Lingtian had only ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years. After all, it would only be detrimental to Duan Lingtian if that matter was exposed. There was no benefit at all. Upon hearing Qin Yu's words, King Qin and the third prince nodded despite their confusion. Then, they turned to look at the people standing in the air. Apart from the group of people in the VIP seats who were unharmed, there were only a few people from the 16 counties who had come from King Qin's mansion. Everyone. The third prince stepped out of the air and stood in front of the group of people in the VIP seats. He said apologetically, King Qin's mansion didn't expect so many accidents to happen during the martial competition of the 16 counties. I'm sorry. You're exaggerating, third prince. When they saw the second-in-command of King Qin's mansion apologizing to them, the people from the sects and clans under King Qin's mansion's jurisdiction immediately waved their hands and said, King Qin's mansion did not intend for this to happen. We know this very well, so there's no need for you to apologize, third prince. That's right. Third prince, today's accident happened because of the powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. It's normal for King Qin's mansion to be powerless when the powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect came. After all, the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect is a powerful sect that far surpasses the celestial kingdoms. Third prince, do you know the cultivation base of the powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect? Third prince, is the powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect a celestial duke? The group of people who came out from the VIP seats did not blame King Qin's mansion. Instead, they were interested in the powerhouse from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. They were curious to know the powerhouse's cultivation base. That senior is a core elder of the compassionate celestial traveler sect. She's a celestial duke. The third prince sighed helplessly when he saw the eager gazes of the people in front of him. A celestial duke. As soon as the third marquis finished speaking, the entire place fell into a dead silence. Although many of the people present on the scene guessed the powerhouse from the compassionate celestial traveler sect was a celestial duke, they could only speculate before they received any confirmation. Now that the third marquis of the Duke of Qin's mansion had spoken, their hearts were filled with shock. This. After a short while, the group of people reacted and gasped one after another, only stopping after a long while. I didn't expect the powerhouse from the compassionate celestial traveler sect to be a celestial duke. In our King Qin manner, it has been 100 years since an immortal monarch expert has appeared in public, right? I didn't expect that there would be such a pleasant surprise during our visit to the martial competition of the 16 counties. This trip was worth it. When we return to the sect, we'll be able to boast about the fact that we've seen a high celestial duke make a move with our own eyes. At that time, there will definitely be many people who will envy us and regret not coming. The people from the various sects and clans under King Qin's mansion's jurisdiction were whispering among themselves. Every single one of them was excited. It was obvious that they had seen a high celestial duke make a move with their own eyes. Upon seeing this, the third marquis was stunned. Cough, cough. The third marquis coughed a few times to attract the attention of the people in front of him. Then he said, "Everyone, there are still some matters that we need to attend to in King Qin's mansion. If you want to stay in King Qin's mansion and rest for a few days, I'll ask someone to make the necessary arrangements. If you want to leave, I'll ask someone to escort you out of King Qin's mansion now." The third marquis said, "Third marquis, I'm in a hurry to return to the sect. There's no need for you to ask someone to escort me out." A loud laughter rang in the air as a figure disappeared from his spot. He left King Qin's mansion at an extremely fast speed. "Third marquis, I'm in a hurry to return as well. Farewell." "Farewell, third marquis." After a few moments, the people in front of the third marquis left. The people from the various sects and clans who were invited by King Qin's mansion were excited to see and witness a high celestial duke with their own eyes. They could not wait to return to their respective clans and sects to brag about it. In just a blink of an eye, only the people from King Qin's mansion and the 16 counties were left in the vast wasteland. "I didn't want this to happen," King Qin said in a deep voice as he looked at the 15 county governors and the 2 inner court elders of 9 Spectres County. "All the counties have suffered great losses this time. In addition to the rewards I promised for the top 10 and the rewards for the counties behind them, I'll give each of the 16 counties a low-grade celestial pill, the Great Overarching Pill," Duan Ling Tian said as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. King Qin said in a clear voice. After Qin Wang said this, the eyes of the people from the various counties, who were originally dispirited, lit up, and their breathing quickened in an instant. The rest of the people from the 16 counties were directly under King Qin's mansion. Therefore, King Qin only needed to show them some mercy and authority to send them away. After sending the people from the 16 counties to stay in the guest rooms of King Qin's mansion, King Qin and the third marquis brought Qin Yu to the central Great Hall of King Qin's mansion. The central Great Hall of King Qin's mansion was very spacious, and the decorations and furnishings inside were dazzling and magnificent. Qin Yu, who was here for the first time, could not help but be stunned for a moment before he regained his senses. When had he ever seen such a magnificent and majestic hall? "Now that there are only 3 of us here, you don't have to worry about anything," the third marquis said to Qin Yu. Although King Qin did not say anything, he nodded encouragingly at Qin Yu after hearing the third marquis words. Qin Yu nodded. Following that, he told them everything he knew about the Duan Ling Tian and everything he knew about the Duan Ling Tian after he came into contact with the Duan Ling Tian. He did not hide anything. At this moment, he knew that if he were to hide anything, it would only make the 2 people in front of him doubt his words. After listening to Qin Yu, King Qin and the third marquis looked at each other. They could see the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. Had it not been for Qin Yu saying it himself, they would find it hard to believe that an ascender who had just ascended to the spirit overarching heaven, an ascender who was less than 100 years old, in merely 5 years, had actually done so many shocking things. Of course, those things did not sound like much at first. However, if they were to add another sentence, those things were done by someone who had just ascended to the spirit overarching heaven for less than 5 years and was not even 100 years old. It was enough to shock anyone. If that's the case, this Duan Lingtian must have obtained a shocking inheritance when he was in the mundane realm. If that's the case, it's not surprising that he has the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman inscribed by a celestial king. The third Marquis sighed. This Duan Lingtian has a bright future. It's your fortune to know him, King Qin said as he looked at Qin Yu. At this moment, King Qin and the third Marquis still felt that Qin Yu's words were true. Although King Qin and the third Marquis still felt that Qin Yu's words were unbelievable. Nevertheless, they still believed Qin Yu's words. Because some of the things that Qin Yu said, as long as they went to investigate a bit, they would be able to find out the truth. They were simply not worried that Qin Yu would lie. Furthermore, Qin Yu also took the initiative to suggest that they go investigate to verify the truth of what he said. I'm worried. Is he being chased by the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect? He might not have a second Void Escaping Talisman in his hands, Qin Yu said with a wry smile. Although Duan Lingtian had escaped under the nose of the Celestial Duke from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect, he could not help but worry about Duan Lingtian's safety. Don't worry. The third Marquis patted Qin Yu's shoulder and said with a smile, the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman is an immortal talisman inscribed by a celestial king. Moreover, the success rate of inscribing it is less than 1%. This immortal talisman is not to be trifled with. Once the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman is used, it can send the user 1,000,000 miles away. Moreover, when the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman is used, it will leave traces in other directions to mislead others. The third Marquis continued to say, therefore, you don't have to worry about Duan Lingtian being in danger. Then I'm relieved. Qin Yu nodded. Eldest uncle, third uncle. Suddenly, Qin Yu's eyes flashed as though he had thought of something. He looked at King Qin and the third Marquis and asked, what's the purpose of King Qin's mansion holding the martial competition of the 16 counties? We can't just let the young powerhouses from the 16 counties compete to determine the ranking and send them back, right? Of course not. The third Marquis shook his head and said with a smile, do you think King Qin's mansion has nothing to do with the generous rewards we've prepared for the martial competition of the 16 counties? What's the reason? Qin Yu asked curiously. In a barren mountain 1,000,000 miles away from King Qin's mansion. Where's this place? A purple figure in a slightly sorry state rose into the air from the barren mountain, looking left and right. The purple figure was a young man. He was dressed in purple, but his purple clothes were tattered. It was as if he had just gone through a tough battle. The young man was handsome and had an extraordinary temperament. He was none other than Duan Lingtian, who had used the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman in King Qin's mansion and escaped from the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect's Celestial Dukes. I've lost my life-saving technique just like that. I can't risk my life like this again before I obtain another Shadow Void Escaping Talisman. Chapter 2703. About a year ago, before Duan Lingtian left the 9 Spectres County, he went to Bloody Spectre City, one of the 9 cities under the 9 Spectres County. Bloody Spectre City was the first place he went to after he ascended to the spirit overarching heaven. Before he left the 9 Spectres County, he went to Bloody Spectre City to meet Lu Fenggu, the city governor of Bloody Spectre City. From there, he learned that an old woman had gone to the city governor's estate to ask Lu Fenggu about his whereabouts. When he left Bloody Spectre City and the 9 Spectres County, he did not plan to participate in the martial competition of the 16 counties. However, by chance, he managed to buy a celestial talisman, the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman, for only 10 prominent celestial stones at a roadside stall in a small town under the Horsetooth County of King Qin's mansion. Fortunately, the people who passed by the roadside stall did not know what was good for them. Otherwise, they would not have let him off so easily. Ever since he had ascended to the spirit overarching heaven, Duan Lingtian had studied the memory celestial talisman in both Bloody Spectre City and the Nine Spectres County. That was how he learned about the Shadow Void escaping talisman. Since he had read about the Shadow Void escaping talisman in a memory celestial talisman, he was able to identify the Shadow Void escaping talisman by looking at the patterns on the Shadow Void escaping talisman at the roadside stall in the small town. One needs to be at least a celestial king to inscribe the Shadow Void escaping talisman. Moreover, even a celestial king only has a 1% success rate and requires rare and precious materials to inscribe the Shadow Void escaping talisman. Once the Shadow Void escaping talisman is used, it can send the user up to a distance of 1 million miles away. The Shadow Void escaping talisman allows the user to escape from a celestial king and below. It was precisely because of the Shadow Void escaping talisman that Duan Lingtian decided to go to King Qin's mansion to join the martial competition of the 16 counties. Moreover, he did not go to the martial competition of the 16 counties with his real identity. First, he joined the Flying Dragon sect, and then he became a consecrator of the Flying Dragon sect. After that, he and the other members of the Flying Dragon sect were invited to the martial competition of the 16 counties as distinguished guests of King Qin's mansion. Firstly, he was worried that the old woman who wanted to kill him was waiting for him. Secondly, he had not decided whether to participate in the martial arts competition of the 16 counties. Once he did, his identity would be exposed. After his identity was exposed, if that old woman was waiting for him, then he would have to use the Void escaping talisman. Let alone an intermediate rank celestial kingdom like the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom, even high-rank celestial kingdoms might not be able to find a shadow escaping talisman. For this reason, Duan Lingtian knew how precious the shadow escaping talisman was. If it was not necessary, he did not intend to use the Shadow Void escaping talisman. Because of this, when he watched the martial competition of the 16 counties as a great elder of the Flying Dragon sect, he did not want to take the risk even though he was hesitant to participate in it. It was not until Tian Jiyu, the county governor of Nine Spectres County, bought him an hour of time that he decided to take the risk. At that time, he knew, if the old woman was not there, he would not have to use the Shadow Void escaping talisman to win the martial competition of the 16 counties. If the old woman was there, he would not have to use the Shadow Void escaping talisman to escape. He might not even have enough time to win the martial competition of the 16 counties. Why do I feel like I haven't reached the end even after traveling for so long? Duan Lingtian was flying above the barren mountains at an extremely fast speed. However, even after a few days and nights, he still could not see the end of the barren mountains. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian took a step forward. Something flashed in front of his eyes. The next moment, what appeared in front of him was a vast expanse of white snow. He appeared in a world of ice and snow. What entered his eyes were numerous snowy peaks, as well as the seemingly endless ice fields and glaciers. It was exceptionally beautiful. Illusion? At this moment, Duan Lingtian suddenly realized that he had fallen into an illusion. Moreover, it was not an ordinary illusion. If it had been an ordinary environment, it would have been impossible for him to not notice it. Moreover, he would not have been able to wander around the barren mountains in the illusion for so long. Since I know this is an illusion, I should observe carefully and see how I can break this illusion. Illusions were man-made. Therefore, to break the illusion, one had to find the core of the illusion. The core of the illusion was like the formation eye of the formation. Once it was broken, the formation would disappear after the formation eye was broken. The illusion would also disappear completely when the core was broken. This illusion is not simple. Another few days and nights passed, and the scene before Duan Lingtian's eyes changed again. The world of ice and snow disappeared. Now, Duan Lingtian appeared on a vast and boundless grassland. All he could see was lush greenery. He could not see the end of it at all. In such a place, it was more difficult than climbing the sky to find the core of the illusion. I can only wait for the next scene. Duan Lingtian knew in his heart that it was impossible for such a sophisticated illusion to only have 3 scenes. Even if there were only 3 scenes after the grassland scene, he would definitely return to the barren mountains or glaciers from before. The truth was just as Duan Lingtian thought. After Duan Lingtian walked casually for a few days and nights, another new scene appeared. This time, it was a lush forest. There were many illusory beasts in the forest that would disappear with a touch. Duan Lingtian entered the forest and searched. Whether it was flowers, grass, trees, birds, or beasts, he did not miss a single thing. He intended to find the core of the illusion and make it disappear. Only then would he be able to leave this place. However, after a few days and nights, Duan Lingtian still could not find the core of the illusory realm when the scene changed again. Why am I so unlucky? It's my first time using the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman, and I've come to such a lousy place. Moreover, I've entered an illusion. Moreover, it's obvious this illusion is not an ordinary one. Duan Lingtian felt helpless. Although he had managed to escape from the eyes of the powerhouse from the compassionate celestial traveler sect with the help of the Shadow Void Escaping Talisman, he had accidentally entered the mysterious illusory realm. As time passed, the scenes continued to change, but he still could not find the core of the illusion. At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally realized something. With his current strength, he still could not find the core of the illusion. It seems like I won't be able to leave this place anytime soon. Duan Lingtian sighed. At this moment, Duan Lingtian had resigned himself to his fate and no longer struggled. This was because he knew that with his current cultivation base, it was impossible for him to find the core of the illusory realm and leave it. Chapter 2704. The heaven and earth spirit energy here is not bad. Although it's not as good as the stone room in the latent dragon abyss in the county governor's estate in Nine Spectres County, it's still better than most places. I'll cultivate here and read some books. I'll see if I can leave the illusory realm after I break through. When Duan Lingtian thought of this, he no longer cared about where he was in the illusory realm. He immediately sat cross-legged in the air and closed his eyes to cultivate. An immortal stone appeared in his hand. At the same time, he swallowed a medicinal pill. The secret of crystal clearance. The heaven and earth spirit energy in Duan Lingtian's body circulated rapidly through his 99 heavenly veins before it finally transformed into celestial origin energy and became part of his body. At the same time, his cultivation base was also increasing with every passing moment. With my current cultivation base, it won't take long for me to break through and become an indigo sun golden celestial. After he had consumed the primitive celestial pill, the gilded gold pill, to become a green sun golden celestial, before he left Nine Spectres County, he had also made a breakthrough to become a blue sun golden celestial. Of course, the reason why he was able to break through so quickly was not only because of his hard work and cultivation, but also because of the gilded gold pill. Not only did the gilded golden pill help him break through and become a green sun golden celestial, but it also helped him improve his cultivation base, bringing him closer to becoming a blue sun golden celestial. However, this was an unfamiliar place after all. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian was still cautious even though he was immersed in his cultivation. He would wake up immediately if there was any movement in his surroundings. The scenery in the illusory realm changed every few days as Duan Lingtian entered the illusory realm. Half a month later, the scenery stopped at a ruin that was illuminated by the moonlight. In the ruins, the wreckage of houses could be seen everywhere. Behind the wreckage of these houses, there were tombstones. Some tombstones were straight, while others were crooked. However, they all had one thing in common. None of the tombstones had any inscriptions on them. After a few days, the ruins illuminated by the moonlight did not change to another scene. In fact, the scenery did not change for the next month. All of a sudden, a gust of wind blew through the illusory realm, stirring up dust. Reading a book? As the breeze blew past, a snow-white figure appeared like a ghost. It appeared in front of the purple figure who was sitting cross-legged in the sky above the ruins. It opened a pair of eyes that were like autumn water and carefully sized it up. The figure sitting cross-legged above the illusory realm was none other than Duan Lingan, who was immersed in his cultivation. Duan Lingtian was Duan Lingtian, who was in the illusory realm in the illusory realm. However, he did not seem to be aware of the ghostly figure that had appeared in front of him. It was as if he had not noticed the other party's appearance from the beginning to the end. That was the truth. If Duan Lingtian discovered the other party, he would definitely wake up from his cultivation and be vigilant against the other party as though he was facing a great enemy. Time passed quietly. Duan Lingtian continued to cultivate. The ghost-like white figure that appeared in front of Duan Lingtian remained motionless like a white statue as he sized up Duan Lingtian. After an unknown period of time, Duan Lingtian discovered that he was only one step away from becoming an indigo sun golden immortal. However, it was this step that he found difficult to take. "I've reached a bottleneck." While sighing, Duan Lingtian gradually regained consciousness. He stretched his arms and waist, then slowly opened his eyes. The moment Duan Lingtian opened his eyes, Duan Lingtian's expression changed completely. This was because he saw a white figure standing in front of him. Moreover, this white figure gave him an extremely unreal feeling. He was like a wandering ghost in the wilderness. "Who are you?" Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as he took a deep breath and studied the white figure in front of him. At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally saw the white figure clearly through the bright moonlight above the ruins. Duan Lingtian's eyes widened when he saw the white figure. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes as though he had just seen a goddess who had descended to the mortal world. The white figure standing in front of Duan Lingtian was a graceful figure. The bright moonlight shone on her body and her face, allowing Duan Lingtian to see her clearly. She had a graceful figure and a peerless appearance. Duan Lingtian had never seen her in his life. Before today, it was difficult for Duan Lingtian to imagine that such a peerless beauty could actually appear in this world. The woman was dressed in a thin white robe. Her beautiful cheeks looked as though they were sculpted by the most outstanding craftsmen. At the very least, Duan Lingtian could not take his eyes off her face the moment his eyes landed on her face. Duan Lingtian had seen many women in the past, and many of them were extremely beautiful. Moreover, each of them had a different temperament and gave off a different feeling. However, in the past, Duan Lingtian had never seen a woman like the white-clad woman in front of him. Although the woman in white in front of him had a peerless appearance, other than a faint allure, there was also a purity that contradicted the allure. She gave off a feeling that she had not experienced much in the world. It was as though she was a young girl who had just come out of her boudoir. Too perfect. I can't believe there is such a perfect woman in this world. Although Duan Lingtian's heart was as calm as still water and did not plan to have any entanglements with other women, when he looked at the white-clad woman in front of him, his heart that was as calm as an old monk's could not help but stir a few times. It took a while before it calmed down due to the interference of his strong will. This was an instinctive impulse that originated from a man's instinct. It was not Duan Lingtian's intention. If she goes out, I don't know how many men will be mesmerized by her and go crazy for her, Duan Lingtian could imagine. Once this white-clothed woman left this place, she would definitely set off a storm of blood. As long as it was a normal man, it would be hard for him to resist her charm. As for those men who were slightly unable to control themselves, they would definitely want to take her for themselves. Stunner, a peerless stunner. The words "a peerless stunner" gradually appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind. Who are you? Under Duan Lingtian's gaze, the woman in white's beautiful eyes moved slightly. Then she slowly spoke. As soon as her voice rang in the air, Duan Lingtian's body involuntarily went limp. She was beautiful and her voice was beautiful as well. Duan Lingtian. After a few moments, Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down before he said his name. What about you? Duan Lingtian asked. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's question, the woman in white fell silent for a moment before a faint smile appeared on her face. Ever since I was born, my mother has called me Huan. You can call me Huan, like my mother. Huan. Duan Lingtian nodded before he asked, Where's your mother? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Huan lowered her head and sighed. Mother left a long time ago. She told me to stay here and wait for someone to take me out. She said that as long as the first person who came in after she left and didn't annoy me would be the one who could take me out. I've been waiting and waiting. I've been waiting and waiting. You've finally come. A hint of joy could be seen in her bright eyes as she looked at Duan Ling Tian. I heard my mother say that the outside world is very fun, but she never brought me out. After that she left. Because of what she said to me before she left, I didn't dare to leave this place alone. If I leave here alone, Mother will definitely be very angry when she finds out. Mother is very scary when she's angry. She seemed to have thought of something, and a hint of lingering fear appeared on her beautiful cheeks. According to your mother's words, no matter who it is, as long as they don't annoy you, they can bring you out of here? Duan Ling Tian was stunned. Could it be that no one has been here before me? Duan Ling Tian asked again. Yes. Huan nodded. Then she looked at the nameless tombstones in the ruins and said, each tombstone represents a person who entered this place. Among them, there are women like me, and there are also men like you whom my mother told me about. 1 woman and 8 men. That woman looked at me with jealousy as Mother told me. I hated that kind of gaze, so I killed her. Duan Ling Tian could not help but smile bitterly when he heard Huan Er's words. Only a few women who were confident in themselves would not be jealous of a woman as perfect as Huan Er, right? As for the 8 men, I hated the way they looked at me, so I killed them as soon as they saw me. Huan Er continued to say. From the beginning until the end, Huan Er talked about her killing spree as though she was talking about something insignificant. I didn't hate the way you looked at me. So, you're the person my mother said can take me out of here. I want to go out and see the outside world. Mother said that the outside world is very interesting and fun. Chapter 2705. The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he heard Huan Er mention the 8 men. With Huan Er's unparalleled beauty that was blessed by the Creator, it was only natural that men would be attracted to her. Among these men, most of them had the desire to possess her. Fortunately, Duan Ling Tian had lived 2 lives and experienced many things. His heart was as calm as still water. That was why he did not lose his composure in front of Huan. It's a good thing I didn't lose my composure in front of Huan. Otherwise, she would have killed me just like how she killed the 8 men. When Duan Ling Tian thought of this, he looked at the 9 nameless tombstones in the ruins again. If that's the case, I'll have to stay here forever. Perhaps there'll be a tombstone for me there as well, but it'll be a nameless tombstone. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian could not help but rejoice inwardly. That's right. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian seemed to have recalled something. His eyes narrowed as he muttered to himself, I almost forgot. Before I started cultivating, I was trapped in an illusory realm. Since I couldn't find the core of the illusory realm, I couldn't break out of the illusory realm. Due to this reason, I couldn't leave. After that, I could only stay here and cultivate, hoping that I'll be able to break out of the illusory realm after I improve my cultivation base. Earlier, due to Huan Er's appearance, Duan Ling Tian had completely forgotten what he had experienced before he started cultivating. Now that he had regained his senses, he finally remembered what he had experienced. Is this place an illusory realm as well? Is this woman called Huan Er also an illusory realm? With this thought in mind, Duan Ling Tian extended his hand, wanting to touch Huan Er to see if she was an illusory realm cultivator or not. It was only when his hand touched her soft skin that Duan Ling Tian felt as though he had been electrocuted. At this moment he realized he had chosen the wrong place. I am sorry. Duan Ling Tian felt extremely awkward as he retracted his hands at lightning speed. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel anxious. This peerless beauty wouldn't kill him because of his indecent behavior, right? Although Duan Ling Tian did not know the cultivation level of this beautiful woman, he had a feeling she was no weaker than him. Based on the fact that she was able to appear in this place and trap him in an illusion, he could tell she was not an ordinary person. She just said, she's been here all this time? It seems that this illusion was left behind by her mother. Duan Ling Tian guessed. Huan, who had been staring at Duan Lingtian the entire time, retracted his hand as if he had been electrocuted. At the same time, she reached out and gently pinched Duan Lingtian's breasts. Why are they like rocks? I can't feel anything. She frowned slightly as she retracted her hands from Duan Lingtian's chest. She rubbed her own breasts as she muttered to herself, "Yes, they're soft. Is this the difference between a man and a woman, as mother said? Aren't fun at all." Like a playful child, she patted Duan Lingtian's muscular chest twice. "You're right." Duan Lingtian nodded. "You're right." Huan, Duan Lingtian gulped. He reached out and grabbed Huan's hands and moved them away from his chest. If it weren't for the pure and innocent look in her eyes, he would have thought this peerless beauty was deliberately seducing him to commit a crime. "Huan, did you just say you can leave this place?" Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and suppressed the heat in his lower abdomen before he changed the topic. "Yes." Huan nodded. Then she asked, "Duan Lingtian, are you going to bring me away from this place?" Huan's eyes lit up when she asked this question. She looked like a playful child who was trapped at home and finally had the chance to go out and play. "I don't think I can leave this place. How am I supposed to bring you away?" Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. "Why can't you leave this place?" Huan asked curiously. Upon hearing Huan's question, Duan Lingtian instinctively extended his divine consciousness. He discovered the ruins beneath his feet were real and not just an illusion. What's going on? Duan Lingtian had a stunned expression on his face as he muttered, "Isn't this supposed to be an illusion?" "You're talking about an illusion. When I appeared before you, I removed it," said as she looked at Duan Lingtian. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Huan extended her hand and waved it in front of Duan Lingtian's eyes. Huan held a white pearl in her hand. The pearl was not big, so she could hold it in her hand. However, the white light that flowed within it was like a bottomless abyss. As soon as Duan Lingtian laid eyes on it, he felt as though he was about to be devoured by it. "You removed it?" Duan Lingtian turned pale with fright. One had to know that he couldn't do anything to that illusory realm before. But now, she was telling him that she had withdrawn from the battle? Duan Lingtian was rendered speechless. "Yes." Huan nodded innocently. "The illusion you're talking about was created by the illusory pearl my mother gave me. I had to remove the illusion before I could appear before you and let you see me." "I see." Realization dawned on Duan Lingtian. Then he asked, "Huan, what's your cultivation base?" "Cultivation base?" Huan frowned slightly when she heard Duan Lingtian's question. However, even then, she still looked beautiful. "I don't know what my cultivation base is. However, I have a feeling that half of the 9 people I killed are stronger than you. Half of them are stronger than me." Duan Lingtian remained silent when he heard Huan's words. After all, his strength was not on par with his cultivation base. Although he was only a blue sun golden celestial, his true strength was comparable to a great overarching golden celestial. If he unleashed his full strength and used the Devata artifact, the 7 orifices exquisite sword, his strength would be comparable to an earth rank or heaven rank great overarching golden celestial. Duan Lingtian was unaware that Huan's strength was comparable to his. When she said he was stronger than her, she was referring to the time when he had used the Devata artifact, the 7 orifices exquisite sword, to break through the illusory realm with all his might. Even then, he still could not break through the illusory realm. At that time, his strength was comparable to an earth rank great overarching golden celestial or a heaven rank great overarching golden celestial. "Duan Lingtian, where are we going now?" A hint of curiosity could be seen in her beautiful eyes as she looked at Duan Lingtian. Her eyes were filled with anticipation as she looked at Duan Lingtian. "I don't know where we are. Let's take one step at a time." Duan Lingtian regained his senses and looked around for a while before he decided to head in a random direction. Just like that, after Duan Lingtian managed to break free from the illusory realm that gave him a headache, he had a tail by his side. "Huan, apart from your mother, do you have any other relatives?" Duan Lingtian asked Huan, as they walked aimlessly. It was a man's dream to have a peerless beauty by his side. However, Duan Lingtian felt like she was a hot potato. He wondered if he could get rid of her. Naturally, it was impossible for Duan Lingtian to leave her behind. Although they had not spent much time together, Duan Lingtian could tell that Huan was a woman who had never been born. Huan was like a girl who had just stepped out of a boudoir. Although she had a peerless beauty, she had never shown it to anyone. To be more precise, she had never shown herself to anyone other than Duan Lingtian and her mother. Once, 9 people accidentally entered the illusion and saw her, but because they looked at her with eyes that made her feel disgusted, she killed them all. Based on what she said, it seems like her mother told her to wait for someone. As for her mother telling her to follow someone she doesn't hate, it's probably to protect her so she doesn't leave with a stranger. Duan Lingtian felt like he had accidentally abducted Huan. In truth, Huan's mother had told her to wait for someone else. However, Duan Lingtian was different from ordinary men. Therefore, Huan had mistaken him for the person she was waiting for. No. Huan shook her head when she heard Duan Lingtian's question. Duan Lingtian nodded and sighed inwardly. He knew he would not be able to get rid of this peerless beauty for the time being. Hm? After traveling for a while, Duan Lingtian finally found 5 living people. Moreover, there were 5 living people in total. There were 3 young men and 2 old men. Why don't you wear a veil? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Huan, who was like a femme fatale next to him. Why? Huan asked in confusion when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. What a beautiful woman! A surprised voice rang in Duan Lingtian's ears. He knew his warning was too late. Among the 5 people walking toward them, the 2 old men looked fine. The 3 young men in front were all wearing brocade clothes, and from the attitude they showed, it could be faintly seen that they were the kind of rich playboys. When one of the young men saw Huan, he exclaimed in surprise. He looked at Huan with a lecherous look in his eyes. It was as though he wanted nothing more than to push her to the ground and ravage her. Chapter 2706. I Want This Woman. The young man in embroidered robes, who was the leader of the 3 young men, looked at Huan with bright eyes. In the depths of his eyes, there was a desire for possession that was not concealed in the slightest. Since Brotherly wants her, it's only natural that she's yours. Brotherly, it seems like you're quite lucky with women. The other 2 young men in embroidered robes chimed in. Although their eyes were filled with reluctance, they did not dare to show it. Although they were from the same clan, their status was far inferior to the young man in embroidered robes. They were only able to come out because of the young man in embroidered robes. It was not that they could not come out on their own, but their lives would be in danger if they came out on their own, unlike the young man in embroidered robes who had 2 great overarching golden celestials to protect him. Even the 2 old men's eyes lit up when they saw Huan. They had lived for thousands of years, but this was the first time they had seen such a perfect woman. That peerless face was as if the Creator had ordered the craftsman to use the most perfect features to carve it out. It even made their hearts, which had been silent for many years, stir a little. After all, they did not lose their composure even in front of the most beautiful woman in the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. Young Masterly. At this moment, one of the old men looked at the young man in embroidered robes whom the other 2 young men addressed as Brotherly and said bluntly, "Such a perfect woman. If young Masterly marries her, she'll bring disaster to the clan in the future. Let's not talk about the others. If the 6th prince finds out young Masterly didn't give such a beauty to him, he'll be the first to be unhappy." The old man continued to say. 6th prince. Upon hearing the old man's words, the young man in embroidered robes, who was addressed as young Masterly by the old man and Brotherly by the other 2 young men, shuddered as cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Earlier, his heart was filled with desire. All he could think of was how to obtain the woman before him. After all, she was too perfect. She was so perfect that it took his breath away. Now, after the old man's reminder, he realized that such a perfect woman was not someone he could touch. I, Nangong Li, am fortunate enough to encounter such a perfect woman, but I can't take her for myself. How sad. Nangong laughed at himself. The sixth prince was the sixth son of the emperor of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. He was also the emperor's follower. Of course, in the eyes of the sixth prince, Nangong Li was just an insignificant follower. It was even possible that the sixth prince might not even remember his name. Young Master Li, as long as you give this beauty to the sixth prince, I think the sixth prince will definitely remember you, young Master Li. He might even consider you as his confidant. Although I've lost the beauty, I've gained the favor of the sixth prince. It's not a bad deal. Another old man said. You're right. The sixth prince has never mistreated those who have rendered meritorious service. If I were to present him with such a peerless beauty, the sixth prince would definitely be very happy and put me in an important position. Nangong Li's eyes lit up when he heard this. With the old man's reminder, Nangong Li finally regained his senses and realized what was more important. Two elders, kill that man first, then capture that beauty. Remember, you must not harm a single hair on the beauty. Otherwise, when the sixth prince blames you, not only me, even you will not be able to bear the consequences. When Nangong Li looked at Duan Ling Tian, it was as though he was looking at a dead man. However, when his eyes landed on Huan he could not help but lust. It was as though he could not wait to pounce on Huan and make her his. When the other two brocade-clad young men heard that Nangong Li was going to offer the beauty to the sixth prince, the unwillingness in their eyes disappeared completely. However, when they looked at Huan again, their eyes were filled with lust. Huan was too perfect. She was so perfect that there was not a single flaw. It was impossible for a normal man not to be attracted to her. Yes, young Master Li. Upon hearing Nangong Li's words, the two old men behind him responded immediately. Then, they looked at Duan Ling Tian coldly as though they were looking at a dead man. When the two old men made their move, Duan Ling Tian's expression darkened. It was not because the two old men were great overarching golden celestials. Based on their speed, although they were great overarching golden celestials, they were only yellow-rank great overarching golden celestials. Their strength was, at most, comparable to Zhou Tong, the first revered elder of the county governor's estate in Nine Spectres County who had been killed by Duan Ling Tian. In the past, Duan Ling Tian was able to kill Zhou Tong. Let alone now. The reason Duan Ling Tian's face was so grave was due to the fact that the young man in embroidered clothes, Nangong Li, had said he wanted to kill him as soon as he opened his mouth. He did not seem to have any enmity with him. In fact, it seemed like this was the first time they had met. When the two old men were halfway to Duan Ling Tian's celestial origin energy began to stir as he prepared to make his move. You're not allowed to kill Duan Ling Tian. A melodious voice rang in the air. Although the voice was cold, it was like the sound of nature. When the voice entered Duan Ling Tian's ears, he felt as though he was listening to the most beautiful music in the world. The three young men, including Nangong Li, were mesmerized by the voice. She's beautiful, but her voice is even more beautiful. What a pity! We can only look at such a beauty, but we can't touch her. The three of them sighed inwardly. The voice belonged to Huan who was standing next to Duan Ling Tian. When the two old men heard Huan Er's melodious voice, they paused for a moment. However, they quickly regained their senses and continued to charge toward Duan Ling Tian at lightning speed. Their eyes were filled with killing intent as they stared at Duan Ling Tian. Before Duan Ling Tian and the two old men could react, Huan who was standing next to Duan Ling Tian, suddenly disappeared. At the same time, Huan appeared out of thin air in front of the two old men. I told you, you're not allowed to kill Duan Ling Tian, said. As soon as she spoke, a terrifying chill surged out of her body. Duan Ling Tian and the three brocade-clad young men standing in the distance felt as though winter had arrived. They could not help but feel a bone-chilling coldness in the air. It should be noted that with their cultivation bases, they would not feel cold even if they were in the depths of a snow-covered glacier. However, at this moment, Duan Ling Tian and the three young men in embroidered robes were so cold that they could not help but shiver. Even their lips had turned blue from the cold. After a short moment, Duan Ling Tian noticed the coldness that gushed towards him had been restrained, and he heaved a sigh of relief. He discovered that even if he used his celestial origin energy to block the cold aura, it would not be able to do much. The cold aura was extremely terrifying. When Duan Ling Tian lifted his head instinctively to look at the two old men who were still some distance away from him, he discovered the two old men had already turned into two ice sculptures amidst the flying snow. Moreover, there were cracks on the ice sculptures as well. As the cracks on the two ice sculptures spread, the bodies of the two old men also shattered into thousands of pieces along with the ice sculptures. They couldn't be more dead. Hiss! Upon seeing this, Duan Ling Tian could not help but gasp. At this moment, the way he looked at Huan had changed completely. She was dressed in a thin white robe that fluttered in the wind, making her look like an ice goddess. She was high and mighty, and no one could profane her beauty. All of a sudden, Duan Ling Tian turned to look at one of the three young men in embroidered robes. It was none other than Nangong Li. Nangong Li hastily crushed a celestial talisman in a panic. In the next moment, whoosh! Nangong Li seemed to have disappeared into thin air before Duan Lingtian's eyes. A drifting light and shadow talisman. When Nangong Li crushed the celestial talisman, Duan Ling Tian saw the inscriptions on the celestial talisman and recognized it as a floating light and shadow talisman. The drifting light and shadow talisman was a celestial talisman inscribed by a celestial duke. The success rate was less than 1%. However, since celestial dukes were capable of inscribing this celestial talisman, it was much more common than the shadow void escaping talisman that Duan Ling Tian used. Even intermediate rank celestial kingdoms had this kind of celestial talisman. Naturally, only sects and clans with strong foundations in intermediate rank celestial kingdoms could afford this kind of celestial talisman. Although they could afford this kind of celestial talisman, they could not afford to buy a lot of it. Generally, only important members of sects and clans would be able to afford this kind of celestial talisman. No, don't kill me. Spare my life, fairy. Spare my life. The two young men in embroidered robes were horrified when they saw Huan looking at them. They hurriedly begged for mercy. However, as soon as Huan approached them, their bodies stiffened, and they followed in the footsteps of the two old men. They turned into ice sculptures and died when their ice sculptures shattered. Duan Lingtian, I can't catch up to him, Huan said. After killing the four young men, she returned to Duan Lingtian's side as though nothing had happened. He used the drifting light and shadow talisman. His speed is comparable to a celestial duke. It's only natural that you can't catch up to him. Duan Ling Tian said nonchalantly. Chapter 2707. It's better for you to wear a veil. Duan Ling Tian looked at Huan and sighed. If this femme fatale didn't cover up her extremely perfect and peerless appearance, who knew how many wild bees and butterflies would pounce on her in the future? Why? Huan seemed slightly displeased. If you don't wear a veil, there will be more people like that who come after us in the future. Duan Ling Tian said helplessly. He did not want to be constantly harassed. Moreover, he was being hunted by the sect leader of the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect. If the sect leader of the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect found out he had such a beautiful woman by his side, it would be easier for them to find him. After all, wherever Huan went, there would be a group of perverts coming after her. At that time, if the Compassionate Celestial Traveler sect's powerhouses heard about her, they would be able to track him down easily. I'll just kill as many as they come after me, Huan said indifferently. Duan Ling Tian smiled bitterly. Currently, Huan sounded like a demoness. She made it sound as though killing was easier than eating. If you don't wear a veil, don't follow me in the future. Duan Ling Tian said with a stern expression on his face. However, when he said this, he actually did not have much confidence in himself. Who knew if Huan would kill him in a fit of anger? Although Huan had made a move earlier, he did not know her exact strength. However, there was one thing he was certain of. Juana's cultivation base was at least at the peak of the heaven-rank great overarching golden celestial stage. After all, she had killed the 2 yellow-rank great overarching golden celestials before they could even react. With his current strength, even if he used all his techniques, he would only be able to fight an ordinary heaven-rank great overarching golden celestial. An ordinary heaven-rank great overarching golden celestial was a heaven-rank great overarching golden celestial who cultivated low-level cultivation methods and mastered low-level celestial methods and divine abilities. Duan Lingtun could barely deal with such a heaven-rank great overarching golden celestial if he used all his techniques. However, if she was a heaven realm great overarching golden celestial, would she be an ordinary heaven realm great overarching golden celestial? Although he did not know much about Huan Er's background, based on the illusory realm created by the illusory realm orb, Huan Er's mother was definitely not an ordinary person. On the other hand, his mother was not a simple person. How could Huan Er's cultivation technique, immortal techniques, and divine abilities be simple? Therefore, Duan Lingtun could almost conclude that there was no doubt that he was no match for her. Even if he used the Devata artifact, the 7 orifices exquisite sword, he wouldn't be able to hold back. Moreover, when she killed the 2 great overarching golden celestials earlier, she didn't use any celestial artifacts. Duan Lingtun gasped as he thought to himself, "It seems like I've underestimated her. She's most likely a peak great overarching golden celestial. He might even be an overarching heavenly supreme celestial. Overarching heavenly supreme celestial." In King Qin's mansion, only King Qin, the master of King Qin's mansion, was an overarching heavenly supreme celestial. Duan Lingtian waited anxiously for Huan Er's reply. "I see." Then, realization dawned on her as she said, "Duan Lingtian, it must be because you don't want others to see my face. That's why you want me to wear a veil, right?" Duan Lingtian's eyes widened as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was rendered speechless by Huan Er's words. "Is Huan Er right?" Huan Er asked as she looked at Duan Lingtun. "If you want to think of it that way, it's fine as long as you wear a veil," Duan Lingtian said helplessly. "Since you don't want others to see my face, Duan Lingtian, I'll wear a veil so no one can see my face. From now on, I'll only show my face to you, okay? Apart from Mother, I'll only show it to you, Duan Lingyan." As she spoke, she raised her hand. Celestial origin energy that was brimming with coldness surged out of her body and formed a white veil over her face that matched her thin white robes. Duan Lingtian blushed when he heard Huan Er's flirtatious words. However, when he saw Huan Er's bright eyes, he knew she did not have any ulterior motives. Based on Huan Er's expression, it was clear she did not know what love was. Duan Lingtian sighed in relief when he saw Huan Er's reaction. "Good girl." Duan Lingtian smiled faintly as he patted Huan Er's head. Her long hair was smooth to the touch. When he retracted his hand, he could smell a refreshing fragrance wafting from it. It was Huan Er's unique fragrance. "However, I'll have to find a real veil for you to wear. This veil formed from celestial origin energy isn't very reliable," Duan Lingtian said. "Anyone with a higher cultivation base than Huan would be able to see through the veil formed from celestial origin energy." "All right." Huan nodded obediently. "I'll listen to you, Duan Ling." At this moment, Huan was like an innocent and naive girl. She was like a completely different person compared to the ice goddess who had killed 4 people in a row. Duan Lingtian was the most affected by Huan Er's behavior. "Who is she?" Duan Lingtian was puzzled as he looked at Huan. "Huan do you know who your mother is? Do you know where she went?" Duan Lingtian asked. "Mother isn't human. She's a celestial beast, a phantom fox. She didn't tell me where she went, so I don't know," Thur said with a hint of disappointment in her voice. "Celestial beast?" Duan Lingtian inhaled sharply when he heard this. He looked at Huan in disbelief and asked, "Does this mean you're not human as well?" Huan nodded. "Indeed, I'm not completely human. Mother said I'm a rare 1,000 Phantoms ice fox in the Phantom Fox clan. 1,000 Phantoms Ice Fox is the offspring of a phantom fox and a human. Generally speaking, the offspring of a phantom fox and a human is either a phantom fox or a human. The chances of 1,000 Phantoms Ice Fox appearing is less than 1 in 10,000. 1,000 Phantoms Ice Fox is born with the appearance of a human baby. It can only transform into 1,000 Phantoms Ice Fox through continuous evolution. Duan Ling Tian nodded. In that case, I can be considered half a human. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Huan nodded. Do you want to look for your mother? Duan Ling Tian asked. Huan nodded again. Then she looked at Duan Ling Tian and said, Duan Ling, can you accompany me to look for my mother? I haven't seen my mother for a long time. I miss her so much. I miss my mother so much. Tears streamed down Huan's cheeks as she spoke. She looked so pitiful that it made Duan Lingtian's heart ache. All right, I'll accompany you to look for your mother. Duan Lingtian's heart ached when he saw Huan's pitiful appearance. I miss my mother so much. Huan sobbed as she sobbed. Without any warning, Huan threw herself into Duan Lingtian's arms and kissed Duan Lingtian softly. Duan Lingtian's lower abdomen reacted immediately. It took him a while to suppress the reaction. As a man, Duan Lingtian could not hold himself back when a peerless beauty came knocking on his door. Don't cry. Huan. After suppressing the desire in his heart, Duan Lingtian patted Huan's back gently and comforted her as though he was coaxing a child. She's asleep? Huan's sobbing gradually faded away. Duan Lingtian did not know whether to laugh or cry when he saw Huan had fallen asleep in his arms. However, when Duan Lingtian saw Huan sleeping soundly, he did not dare to make any rash movements. Just now, those people mentioned the sixth prince. They also mentioned something about the most beautiful woman in the capital. That young man dressed in embroidered robes is Nangong Li. Duan Lingtian began to organize his thoughts and ponder based on the clues left behind by those people earlier. In the end, he managed to come up with a few guesses. I used the Shadow Void escaping talisman to travel 100,000 miles away from King Qin's mansion. I'm certain I'm no longer in King Qin's mansion's territory. However, it's not enough for me to leave the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. The capital of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom is in the vicinity of the capital of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. There's indeed a Nangong clan in the capital of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. Although it's only a second-rate clan in the capital, its foundation is not inferior to King Qin's mansion and the other mansions in the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. I've long heard that the sixth prince, one of the most outstanding sons of the Emperor of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom, is not only talented in civil and martial arts, but he's also a womanizer. It seems like I'm in the center of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom's territory. Duan Lingtian had a rough idea of his current location. I wonder if the sect leader of the Compassionate Celestial Travelers sect only sent that old woman to kill me. If there are a few people like that old woman, it wouldn't take them too long to search the area that's 100,000 miles away from King Qin's mansion. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat when he thought about this. He made up his mind and decided to leave the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom after she wakes up. Chapter 2708. Sush. At this moment, a figure appeared 100,000 miles away from Duan Lingtian and Huan. It was none other than Nangong Li, the son of the clan leader of the Nangong clan in the capital of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom and the great young master of Nangong clan, who had escaped with a floating light shadow talisman earlier. After reappearing, Nangong Li's face was still filled with shock and fear. That woman who is so perfect and flawless, who on earth is she? How's she so strong? The two elders were yellow-rank great overarching golden celestials. She didn't even do anything, but the cold aura she emitted froze the two elders into ice sculptures and killed them. Even if the cold aura was formed by her celestial origin energy, she didn't use any celestial weapons. Nangong Li could not help but gasp when he thought about this. He muttered to himself, Generally speaking, only a peak Great Overarching Golden Celestial would be able to kill 2 yellow-rank Great Overarching Golden Celestials without using any celestial weapons. That perfect and flawless woman is actually such a powerful existence? At this moment, Nangong Li felt as though a bucket of cold water had been poured on him. The desire that had risen in his heart was completely extinguished. Where's this place? After regaining his senses, Nangong Li looked around and discovered he was in the middle of a lofty mountain range. I have to find a place to hide first. Then, I'll send a message back to my father and ask him to send someone to bring me back to the capital. At this moment, Nangong Li did not dare to return to the capital of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom alone. With his cultivation base, there was a high chance he would be killed by the powerful celestials on his way to the capital of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. Therefore, he found a secluded cave and hid there. Then, he took out a communication celestial talisman and channeled his celestial origin energy into it before it transformed into a streak of light that shot up into the sky toward the capital of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom. In the communication celestial talisman, apart from asking his father to send someone to bring him back, Nangong Li also gave a rough description of his surroundings so his father would not overlook this place. As for where he was right now, he didn't know either. However, as long as his father received his immortal message talisman, he believed that his father would be able to determine his location through the immortal message talisman. After all, the communication celestial talisman traveled in a straight line. As the son of the clan leader, Nangong Li's communication celestial talisman was inscribed by an overarching celestial supreme celestial. Known Nangong Li's communication celestial talisman. For this reason, the speed of Nangong Li's communication celestial talisman was comparable to an ordinary overarching heavenly supreme celestial. Unless an overarching heavenly supreme celestial intercepted the communication celestial talisman, the communication celestial talisman would be able to reach the capital and Nangong Li's communication celestial talisman. After Nangong Li used the communication celestial talisman to send a message to his father, he hid in a secluded cave and waited for his father to send someone to bring him back. Meanwhile, at this moment, Huan who was lying in Duan Ling Tian's arms, finally calmed down. After a while, she said, "Duan Lingnan, although your body is different from mine, it's still very comfortable." After calming down, she extended her left hand and gently tapped Duan Ling Tian's chest with a smile on her face. Duan Ling Tian fell into a daze for a moment before he regained his senses. Huan's smile was like 100 flowers blooming. It was so beautiful and enchanting that Duan Ling Tian fell into a daze. When she regained her senses, her body moved away from Duan Ling Tian and pressed against his body. Duan Ling Tian could not help but feel a burning sensation in his lower abdomen when he felt the softness on his chest. "What a seductress!" Duan Ling Tian gasped inwardly as he pushed Huan away. He was worried he would lose control if Huan continued to move. This was his first time being aroused by a woman to such an extent. Although he had deliberately distanced himself from other women, he was still a normal man. If he didn't feel anything when a woman with perfect looks, perfect figure, and flawless body leaned on him, he would really suspect that there was something wrong with his body. "Huan, let's look around and see if there's a town nearby. Let's figure out where we are first before we decide what to do next," Duan Ling Tian said as he pushed Huan away. "I'll listen to Duan Linggan." Huan nodded when she heard Duan Ling Tian's words. Ever since she was born, other than her mother, she had only come into contact with 10 people. 9 of them had looked at her with disgust, and she had killed them as soon as she saw them. Duan Lingtan was the only one who did not look at her with disgust when he saw her for the first time. Moreover, Duan Ling Tian had fulfilled the condition her mother had told her to leave the ruins. Due to this reason, she had left with Duan Ling Tian. Huan had never been exposed to the world before. She was not aware of the dangers of the world. In many ways, she was inferior to those maidens who were raised in a boudoir. At the very least, those maidens knew the rules. However, there were no rules in Huan's world. From the moment she left the ruins with Duan Ling Tian, other than her mother, Duan Ling Tian was her everything. Of course, the current Huan or did not know anything about friendship or love. She only knew that Duan Ling Tian was the person her mother said would be able to bring her out of the ruins. He was someone she didn't dislike, someone she cared about, so she wouldn't allow anyone to harm Duan Ling Tian. Anyone who wanted to hurt Duan Ling Tian deserved to die. For this reason, the two elders from the Nangong clan who wanted to kill Duan Ling Tian were instantly killed by Huan. At this moment, Huan was like a blank sheet of paper. As for what would happen in the future, it would depend on her future experiences and Duan Ling Tian's guidance. Let's go then. Duan Ling Tian beckoned to Huan before he took the lead and stepped into the air. Huan followed him closely, leaning on him as though she did not want to be separated from him for even a moment. Duan Ling Tian could sense Huan's attachment to him. However, he did not mind it. After all, he knew Huan had not come into contact with enough people and things. After spending some time in the outside world, she would learn the difference between men and women. At that time, she would no longer cling to him. A few days later, Duan Ling Tian finally saw a city. After entering the city, the first thing Duan Ling Tian did was to buy an exquisite white veil for Huan. Moreover, it was the type that did not allow light to pass through the veil. It could cover up Huan's flawless cheeks so that it would not arouse any man's imagination. Although Huan wore the veil, she still attracted the attention of all the men around her. Even some of the women could not help but steal a few more glances at her. Huan followed closely behind Duan Ling Tian. When there were other people around, she did not appear as innocent as she usually did. Instead, she appeared cold and distant, giving off an aura that made others feel as though they were 1,000 miles away. Her was dressed in a thin white robe. Her temperament was cold, and she exuded a sense of holiness that made others feel inferior. That woman just now, although she was wearing a veil, but just based on her temperament and her pair of flawless autumn eyes, I can imagine that under that veil, there must be an incomparably beautiful face. I think so too. It's impossible for a woman like her to be ugly under the veil. Perhaps she's wearing a veil because she has a flaw in her face? After all, women are born with a desire for beauty. If she's beautiful, wouldn't it be a waste of her beauty to cover it up? I really want to see what kind of face she has under the veil. When Duan Ling Tian and Huan walked on the street, the passers-by fell silent. Everyone was looking at Huan curiously. When the duo walked past them, they could not help but discuss among themselves. As they spoke, they were captivated by Huan's cold and holy aura. Looking at Huan's beautiful eyes, they guessed that under the veil, there was an 80% to 90% chance that Huan had a flawless face. Even if her eyes were not as flawless, she would not be too far off. Please wait a moment. As soon as Duan Ling Tian and Huan walked past a spacious street, a voice rang from behind them. Huan ignored the voice. It was only when she saw Duan Ling Tian turning around that Huan stopped and turned around. Duan Ling Tian looked at the person who spoke to them. It was an elegant young man who was dressed like a scholar. He held a folding fan in his hand. He had a handsome appearance and a gentle smile on his face. However, there was a hint of wickedness between his brows. It made him look a little contradictory. Behind the scholarly young man was an old man. He looked like an ordinary old man, but Duan Ling Tian could tell he was not as simple as he looked. At the very least, he was not weaker than the two Nangong elders who died in Huan's hands not long ago. Both of you seem to be outsiders, right? The scholarly young man's smile deepened. There was a hint of wickedness in his smile as he asked Duan Ling Tian and Huan. However, his gaze was more focused on Huan's body. What's the matter? Duan Ling Tian asked as he looked at the scholarly young man. A hint of jealousy flashed in the scholarly young man's eyes when he saw Huan leaning against Duan Ling Tian. Then he shifted his gaze to Duan Ling Tian and said with a smile, "I'd like to ask you to remove the veil from your face. I want this female companion of yours to remove the veil on her face. Of course, this is not free. As long as your companion is willing to remove the veil from her face, I'm willing to pay both of you 10,000 prominent celestial stones." Chapter 2709. As long as she removes her veil, you'll give both of us 10,000 prominent celestial stones each? Duan Lingtian's expression darkened when he heard the scholarly young man's words. His eyes narrowed into slits. Huan Er's beautiful face that was hidden under the veil turned cold immediately. When Duan Lingtian gently patted her hand and transmitted his voice to her, "Leave this to me, Huan Er." Huan Er nodded obediently. That's right. When the scholarly young man saw Huan Er nodding, he thought she had agreed. He smiled as though he did not notice Duan Lingtian's slightly darkened expression. As for whether he really did not notice Huan Er's expression, only he knew. Isn't that Qi Yu, the second young master of the Qi clan? It's him. He took out 20,000 prominent celestial stones just to see a woman's face. No wonder people say the second young master of the Qi clan is a spendthrift. It seems like it's true. I wonder if the woman will remove her veil. The passers-by on both sides of the street recognized the scholarly young man. As they spoke, they revealed the scholarly young man's name and identity. The city they were in, Qi Liu City, had two masters, the Qi clan and the Liu clan. The two clans were evenly matched in strength. They kept each other in check and controlled Qi Liu City together. Although they had been fighting for thousands of years, neither of them could destroy the other. For this reason, the two clans had coexisted in Qi Liu City for thousands of years. That's 20,000 prominent celestial stones. Anyone would be tempted by that amount, right? I think she'll remove her veil. I don't think so. Didn't you see her partner's expression is grave? I think so. Many passers-by noticed Duan Lingtian's expression when they were talking. They could feel the atmosphere was a little strange. I'll take out 100,000 high-grade immortal stones. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at Qi Yu. He said coldly, "Take off all your clothes and walk around the streets of Qi Liu City naked. If you do that, I'll give you the 100,000 prominent celestial stones. What do you think?" As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Duan Lingtian's smile froze. The old man behind him immediately looked at Duan Lingtian with a cold glint in his eyes. As for the passers-by on both sides, they were in an uproar. Oh my God! What did I hear? Is this person crazy? This is the second young master of the Qi family. He actually dares to humiliate the second young master of the Qi family? He's dead. He's dead meat. When the crowd looked at Duan Lingtian again, it was as if they were looking at a dead man. You're free to make a move if you think you can bear the consequences. Duan Lingtian said indifferently when he saw Qi Yu and the old man were about to go berserk. After he finished speaking, he looked at Huan Er with a faint smile on his face and said, Let's go. After he finished speaking, he turned around and continued to walk away. Huan Er turned around and followed after him. Meanwhile, the scholarly young man and the old man behind him were stunned by Duan Lingtian's meaningful gaze. Just as their expressions changed and they were about to make a move out of shame and anger, a voice suddenly rang out. Second young master of the Qi family, you can't even remove a veil from a woman's face. You've really embarrassed yourself this time. Accompanied by a frivolous voice, a young man dressed in luxurious clothes and holding two beads in his right hand walked over with a tall and sturdy man with a curly beard. He looked at Qi Yu, the second young master of the Qi family, mockingly. It's the first young master of the Liu clan. What's the occasion today? The second young master of the Qi family and the first young master of the Liu family, the two outstanding figures of the younger generation of the Qi family and the Liu family, actually appeared together. I'm afraid these two rivals are going to fight again. Many people whispered among themselves when they saw the young man dressed in luxurious robes. Lu Wenbin. Qi Yu's expression darkened when he saw Lu Wenbin, the first young master of the Liu clan. He sneered and said, "You said I can't even remove a veil from a woman's face? Then, why don't you do it? Why don't you, Lu Wenbin, stop blabbering in front of me?" Qi Yu, who was about to make a move on Duan Lingtian, was interrupted by Lu Wenbin. It was precisely because of Lu Wenbin's interruption that his anger towards Duan Lingtian subsided a little. At the same time, he calmed down. The woman next to the purple-clad young man had a cold and holy air about her. She did not seem like an ordinary celestial. Moreover, the purple-clad young man whom Chi-Yu had thought was bluffing had a strong aura. Both of them combined. Chi-Yu suddenly felt that the purple-clad young man was not bluffing at all. The purple-clad young man might not have been bluffing. It was very likely that he didn't fear him or the Chi clan behind him. That was why he dared to do that. Therefore, he planned to use reverse psychology to provoke Lu Wenbin and get Lu Wenbin to test the purple-clothed young man. Chi-Yu. Lu Wenbin sneered when he heard Chi-Yu's words. Then watch carefully. Not only can I remove that woman's veil, but I can also kill the man next to her as well. Lu Nan, go and kill that man, then bring the woman over. This young master wants to personally take off her veil and see her true appearance. If she looks alright, this young master doesn't mind bringing her back to the Lu family to play with for a few days. As soon as Lu Wenbin finished speaking, a voice rang in the air. The curly-bearded man, Lu Nan, who was standing behind Lu Wenbin, was about to make a move. You're seeking death. An earth-shattering voice rang in the air. Lu Nan was so shocked that he did not even have the time to react, let alone make a move. Duan Lingtian, who was about to leave with Huan, was horrified when he heard Lu Wenbin's words. After that, the celestial origin energy in his body surged out of his 99 heavenly veins like raging dragons. In just a blink of an eye, the celestial origin energy surged out of his body like a raging dragon. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. As soon as his celestial origin energy surged out of Duan Lingtian's body, it transformed into tens of thousands of sword rays. Moreover, as Duan Lingtian cast the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, the sword rays began to grow rapidly before they merged into a sword formation. Then, they seemed to have transformed into more than 10 clones before they merged into one. The sword formation's light grew even brighter and more dazzling. From afar, it looked like a blazing sun. In the next moment, swoosh, 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 the sword formation broke through the air, heading straight for LV Wenbin. In the blink of an eye, it was near LV Wenbin. It was as if it had turned into a rain of swords, whistling down on LV Wenbin. Young master! Lu Nan, who was standing behind Lu Wenbin, finally reacted. He wanted to make a move, but it was already too late. Lu Wenbin was completely enveloped by the rain of swords. When the rain of swords dissipated, there was only a pool of dazzling blood left where LV Wenbin had been standing. The blood that had splashed out was scattered all over the place, like a dazzling blood-colored rose. Lu Wenbin, the great young master of the Lu clan, the future clan leader of the Lu clan, he was dead. The entire place fell silent. Chi-Yu, the second young master of the Chi clan, was the first to regain his senses. He gasped when he regained his senses. An expression of lingering fear could be seen on his face. He was truly terrified. If Lu Wenbin had not appeared and mocked him earlier, he would have attacked the purple-clad young man. If he had attacked the purple-clad young man, the person who would be reduced to a pool of blood on the ground would not be Lu Wenbin, but him, Chi-Yu. The old man standing behind Chi-Yu regained his senses as well. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, his expression was solemn. A hint of dread could be seen on his face. This purple-clad young man is also a great overarching golden celestial. Based on the purple-clad young man's earlier attack, he was certain the purple-clad young man was also a great overarching golden celestial like him. However, he was not certain which stage the purple-clad young man was at. However, he was not certain he would be able to defeat the purple-clad young man. How dare you kill my young master? After Chi-Yu and the old man behind him, Lu Nan also regained his senses. His curly beard twitched, and a cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. He raised his hand and a spiked club appeared in his hand. The celestial origin energy on the mace shone brightly as he swung it at Duan Lingtian. Boom, 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 boom. The spiked mace was a primitive celestial weapon. It seemed to have come alive in Lu Nan's hand. Although it looked heavy, it was extremely agile. In just a blink of an eye, it formed a net that enveloped Duan Lingtian. Humph! Duan Lingtian snorted coldly. With just a thought, he took a celestial sword out of his spatial ring and merged it with the sword formation before it shot out toward the net formed by the spiked mace in Lu Nan's hand. It broke through the barrier as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. In the end, Lu Nan was engulfed as well. Upon seeing this, Lu Nan, naturally, swung the spiked mace in his hand to defend himself. However, in the blink of an eye, the spiked club in his hand strangely slipped out of his hand. It was no longer under his control and had left him. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The rain of swords continued to howl for a while before it finally disappeared. After the rain of swords disappeared, Lu Nan disappeared as well. He was replaced by a pool of blood. Gasp, 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 gasp. The passers-by who had just regained their senses saw Lu Nan had died in Duan Lingtian's hands. They could not help but gasp. His strength is comparable to an earth-rank great overarching golden celestial. The old man standing behind Qi Yu muttered to himself with a horrified expression on his face. Chapter 2710. Lu Nan is a great overarching golden celestial from the Lu clan. However, he was easily defeated by the purple-clad young man. Lu Wenbin is the first young master of the Lu clan. He's the favorite son of the clan leader of the Lu clan. He's also the future clan leader of the Lu clan. However, this purple-clad young man killed him just like that. Who is he? Isn't he afraid of the Lu clan's revenge? The onlookers whispered among themselves as they looked at Duan Lingtian in shock. On one hand, they were shocked by Duan Lingtian's strength. On the other hand, they were shocked by Duan Lingtian's audacity to kill Lu Wenbin, the first young master of the Lu clan, in Qi Liu City. Fortunately, the second young master of the Qi clan did not make a move earlier. Otherwise, he and the Qi clan's elder behind him would be reduced to a puddle of blood. I think the second young master of the Qi clan and the people behind him were about to make a move earlier. However, the first young master of the Lu clan arrived at the critical moment and prevented them from making a move. This means the first young master of the Lu clan is the savior of the second young master of the Qi clan? That seems to be the case. When the onlookers recalled the earlier scene, they looked at Qi Yu, the second young master of the Qi clan, with mixed feelings on their faces. They lamented Qi Yu's luck. "Sir, please forgive me for offending you earlier." After Qi Yu regained his senses, his expression gradually calmed down. He bowed and cupped his hands together as though nothing had happened. He apologized to Duan Lingtian. The old man behind him bowed as well. If Duan Lingtian had only killed Lu Wenbin, he would not have bowed to him. However, Duan Lingtian had killed Lu Nan, the Lu clan's elder, who was on par with him. This made him realize that Duan Lingtian was much stronger than him. For this reason, he did not dare to act recklessly in front of Duan Lingtian. "Used me as a tool? Do you think I'll let it go with just an apology?" Duan Lingtian asked indifferently as he looked at Qi Yu. His eyes that were originally wide open suddenly narrowed into slits. "What else do you want?" Qi Yu asked nervously with his head lowered. Although Qi Yu did not think there was no one in the Qi clan who could defeat Duan Lingtian, he could only admit defeat for now. The powerhouses from the clan. Powerhouses from the clan. Duan Lingtian clan. Duan Lingtian glanced at Qi Yu indifferently and said, "Let's talk as we walk." Qi Yu's, "I'll grant you, since you're going to Duan Lingtian, Duan Lingtian, since you, view, Lingtian, you, Duan man and I, Lingtian a man, I. Master of clan Lingtian clan, master of the clan, master of his clan, he, master of the clan, master of clan, clan's leader. Qi Yu lowered his head as he thought about this. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian and Huan followed Qi Yu and the Qi clan's elder to the Qi clan's estate under the watchful eyes of the passers-by. The passers-by quickly made way for them. In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian and the others had disappeared from the passers-by's sight. At this moment, the passers-by finally sighed in relief. They began to discuss among themselves. Why did that purple-clad young man follow the second young master of the Qi clan to the Qi clan's estate? Based on his words, it's obvious he's going to seek revenge from the second young master of the Qi clan. However, why did he ask the second young master of the Qi clan to bring him to the Qi clan's estate? Does he think he'll be able to ask for as much as he wants in the Qi clan's estate? Isn't he seeking death by going to the Qi clan's estate? Although he's strong, I don't think he's strong enough to challenge the Qi clan, right? The Qi clan is a powerful clan with 2 heaven-rank great overarching golden celestials. The passers-by were confused as they discussed among themselves. Why would the purple-clad young man take the initiative to go to the Qi clan's estate? Was this not tantamount to sending a lamb to a tiger's den? Do you think it's possible that the purple-clothed young man and the woman beside him were all sent here by the Qi clan? At this moment, a passerby with a wise look in his eyes deduced and guessed. Everything that happened just now was actually a trap set up for the Liu clan's eldest young master. The purpose was to kill the Liu clan's eldest young master. Earlier, they tried their best to create a hostile relationship with each other so that they could fool the Liu clan. Now, that man and woman might be going to the Qi clan to get their reward before they leave Qi Liu City. As long as those 2 people leave, even if the Liu family suspects that the man and woman were sent by the Qi family, there's no evidence. The Liu family can't fall out with the Qi family because of a suspicion without any evidence. This passerby's words received the approval of the majority of the crowd. I knew it. Although the Qi clan's second young master is a well-known prodigal, he wouldn't spend 20,000 prominent celestial stones just to get a woman to remove her veil. That's possible. Although he's a prodigal, he's never done something so extravagant. Spending 20,000 prominent celestial stones just to get a woman to remove her veil is indeed ridiculous. As the group of passers-by chatted, they further believed that the previous person's guess was most likely correct. The man and woman were hired by the Qi clan. Fortunately, Qi Yu, the Qi clan's second young master, was not present. Otherwise, he would have vomited blood from anger when he heard these people's words. This was the first time the Qi clan had been wronged. If the man and woman were hired by the Qi clan, would he have been so nervous when he brought them back to the Qi clan's estate? What do you want? Qi Yu was the first to break the silence when they returned to the Qi clan's estate. He slowly turned around and asked Duan Ling Tian anxiously. I want a detailed map of the Cloudy Rock Celestial Kingdom and its neighboring celestial kingdoms. Qi Yu's expression remained calm when he heard Duan Ling Tian's words. After all, this was just a small matter to him. In fact, he could easily find such a map in the Qi clan. Also, the Qi clan has to pay me 1 million prominent celestial stones. Duan Ling Tian continued to say. Upon hearing Duan Ling Tian's words, Qi Yu's expression changed drastically. 1 million prominent celestial stones. Although the Qi clan could afford it, it was not a small sum. Even the expression of the Qi clan's elder changed slightly. Although he had guessed the purple-clad young man would extort celestial stones, he did not expect the purple-clad young man to extort so many prominent celestial stones. That was 1 million prominent celestial stones. Was the purple-clad young man so confident he could afford it? I can't decide. I'll have to ask my father after we return to the Qi clan. Qi Yu took a deep breath and said. Duan Ling Tian nodded indifferently. It's all right, I'll follow you back to the Qi clan first. However, I only have an hour. If I don't get 1 million prominent celestial stones within an hour, don't blame me for being rude to you. When Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, his eyes flashed coldly as he looked at Qi Yu. Qi Yu's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly looked away, no longer daring to meet Duan Ling Tian's eyes. Second young master, this purple-clad young man wants 1 million prominent celestial stones as soon as he opens his mouth. What a big appetite! One of the Qi clan's elders said through voice transmission. Indeed, he has a big appetite. However, he has to be alive to eat it. Qi Yu sneered through voice transmission. I don't think he's a reckless person. Moreover, the Qi clan's background isn't a secret in Qi Liu City. It's very likely he knows about the Qi clan's background. The Qi clan's elder said through voice transmission. You're saying he dares to follow me back to the Qi clan and blackmail us despite knowing about the Qi clan's background because he's not afraid of the Qi clan? Qi Yu's tone turned solemn. Something like that, the elder said. The Qi family's elder said, either he's hiding his strength, or his origin is not simple. It doesn't matter who he is, we'll ask my father to test him when we return to the Qi clan. If that doesn't work, we'll ask the ancestor and my father to test him, Qiyu said. There were 2 heaven-rank great overarching golden celestials in the Qi clan. They were the 2 strongest heaven-rank great overarching golden celestials in the clan. One of them was the current clan leader of the Qi clan, Qiyu's father. The other person was the old man in the Qi clan whom Qiyu referred to as the ancestor. Although they were both heaven-rank great overarching golden celestials, the old man in the Qi clan was stronger than the clan leader of the Qi clan. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and Huan arrived at the Qi clan under Qiyu and the old man's lead. Duan Lingtian, why are we following them? I don't like them, and I don't want to be with them. Huan sent a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian as soon as they entered the Qi clan's residence. We're following them to get celestial stones. I bought all the interesting things for you in the city with celestial stones. After all, celestial stones don't last long. That's why we're here to get them. Once they give us the immortal stones, we can go and buy even more rare and interesting things. Duan Lingtian spoke as though he was coaxing a child. Wow! Huan's eyes lit up when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. Then she said, then, let's ask them to give us all the celestial stones they have. If they don't give us their celestial stones, I'll kill them. Huan's eyes flashed with killing intent when she spoke. Qiyu and the old man could not hear their conversation since Duan Lingtian and Huan were communicating through voice transmission. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.